So. Good, everything okay? Okay, Sharon. Well, that's what I figured you probably were asleep, but sleep, really early. And it was probably close to 9. You might have, I figured you were sleeping or you had to call over for you. Oh, and you dinner? Yeah. I bet it was. I bet they were. We got chicken at the buffet. Yeah, I know. Look, you can't finish. Yes, I ate, yeah, no, I ate. Yeah. I got dinner. Oh, my God, yeah. Yeah, the dinner was good.
Empty night tonight. Hey, TJ.
Really?
Hey, hopefully nobody show. Hey, man. That's wrong. Better, you know, the kidneys are starting to get, she's still doing like daily infusions of like a couple liters of saline. Okay. Just to keep her, we're trying to flush the kidneys and this is byproduct from kidneys from cancer. And the, seems like the treatments, she's gone through 3 chemos, so those seem to be helping. Working, so it's, yeah, I mean, you know, the doctor yesterday and he was like, yeah, you know, which I think are doing what we expect. So that's a good thing. We just, it's gonna be a long haul, but you know, it's a long haul. We'll be thinking of it all the way up to it's not an easy thing. So, but like they say, you know, if you're gonna get a cancer, they say that, you know, multiple myeloma, there's so much knowledge about it, so much treatment, success, that's a good one to get, it's a blood cancer. That basically, you know, good for her, you know, it's basically attacking red cells. And so, but it's wreaking havoc on her kidney, that's what really triggered all, created, you know, back in November. Her blood. In November. So, and she's not feeling good. And then we did like a long walk down here and down Key West there. Like 7 Mile Bridge. And she was just, it wasn't hot, but she like, oh, I had a little sweat. I thought we thought of dehydration. But it was kind of the kidney, really the kidney stuff, yeah. Was enough that now the doctor and GP, she called the blood work and the GP said, like, I get it. How the feeling down in the GP. Now turn on the physical. Yeah, well, it's really fun with that was because Gene's partner. He got it, and he was he lost his hair. I just saw him the other day. It was amazing. Yeah, so his hair's back. Yes, it's also happens right now. This treatment is supposed to is not possible to hair. But if hopefully, should basically
Maybe some.
if not, the next step would be, you know, basically a T-cell transplant. And that's when they take that, they take. That's when that's when your hair. That's we're hopeful, you know, maybe she will pass you. We'll see. So that's what we're shooting for. So we get. So, but she's focused like, okay, well, it's not gonna happen, you know, this is my path, I'm staying on this path. That's so I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go. I appreciate you texting. Well, and then there's like so much else. And then I was realized that you were, and I was like, you're not gonna be there. No, then whatever, you know, so I was like, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, but no, thank you, I appreciate it, and it went pretty well, we'll talk about it, yeah. I have some insights as to.
Hey, good. Good, everything's good.
I didn't know.
Place is available for front row, yes.
And I
Listen to the tapes.
had lunch with Jimmy the other day.
Did you?
Yeah,
Here or up there?
here he came down.
And.
Oh, you should have told me.
Robbie.
Come over and talk.
Yeah.
2:08 AM.
Hey, Matt.
Good. Anything tonight, or? You need anything tonight?
No.
You know what? It's There's responsible people.
Yeah.
Watch this big ball. You have the opportunity, but you got a cocktail.
Hey, you all right?
No,
Jimmy got changed.
it was awesome. man.
Right?
Thanks, but we'll catch up.
He's still got a full head of hair.
Hey, he's a character. I love him.
He's a very good man.
He is. He's been that way since fifth grade.
Hey, Rich. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Rich. Hey, Matt. Hey, good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you. I love the suit.
Hey, how was Ice? Awesome.
It was great. I loved it. I'd like to go back. I thought it was totally worth it.
You're saying that a couple more days, like.
I could have done 2 more days in Reykjavik, because there's great museums and stuff. That we didn't really get to do.
It's so cool.
Great walking town. It was warmer there today than it was here.
Yeah.
So, but we hit it just right. It was like 66, 3 of our 6 days, it was 66 and sunny. And James' brother says to the guy, like, are these like 3 of the top 10 days in Iceland? The guy said, no, actually, no, these would be 3 of the top 5 days. So, we had a couple days was like foggy, overcast, but we saw all the volcano stuff and the hot baths and all that. I mean, the waterfalls are amazing. There's
It's a
waterfalls
whole other world.
way better than Niagara Falls. I mean, just incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's a great, like, 1-week trip.
How you doing? How's Tony?
Very good.
Michelle through was very good.
Yeah.
What did you get?
I got to see that she did a land on my Westmead sauce.
Coast,
What did she get her?
and then we came back.
No,
that
she got
way,
rid of
and
the
then
broccoli.
Next day, we did the, kind of the western part of the southern coast. And then we just stayed in Reykjavik for 2 months. I could have done more, but the museum was really cool, and the food was great. No language issues, you know, everybody was very, you know. Well, how about this one? This is my stat of the whole thing. There's 60 golf courses in Iceland. And the, in the summertime, they can play almost 24 hours.
Because it's like.
And then the players then would go to Spain or Florida in the off season, but. 40%, I'm sorry, 10% of the residents of Iceland are members of golf clubs. Yeah, and there's only 40,000 people there. If you think about it, there's 600,000 people in Holland County. But yet their prison only holds 250 people. I said, we don't really get a lot of fun.
And then it's also.
What's that?
Yeah, oh, it gets better. They're related.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's nice.
so the tour guide goes, yeah, there's not a big gene pool here, you know, we have to get you.
Good afternoon, or good evening,
And-
whatever it is.
I want to pretend it's the morning that I lost the whole
That'd
day.
be too good.
We're all straight for that.
Yeah.
Little fun.
You know what? Here's one.
Oh, well, it's like, yeah, I see what you know. Well, there's only 400,000 people, so it's not, you know, so, but everybody's spread, I mean, everybody in Reykjavik, or they're pretty much. But it was really, really relaxing. I just had an extraction. Now, it's okay. I don't mind losing teeth. This is.
Some of this I would say, I don't even understand, but I agree. Although I was thinking of was maybe lean into, physically. But, it's.
Well, there's. A couple of things. So I don't know what you
have it on Chair, if you'd like to, first, and ask me before you. That's not. You're welcome.
It's on the agenda.
I don't want
Yeah.
Out there getting my, everybody else.
Quiet. But yeah, we just get back, I'm
Do
still.
you need an agenda?
Being away.
Oh, no.
No, I'm good.
All right, let's get you one.
Hey, Chief.
That's all I need for.
You get all dressed up, huh? Andy, right?
I'm laughing for you.
And you can't park it overnight either, right? So that's it, people who do apartments over here, you can't have guests park in and stuff doing that, yeah. Or unless we put parking on the weekend.
Have fun singing?
Love that.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Was it good?
Didn't feel being in the,
It was cool.
it was, I
Yeah, I
had
thought it was
chills.
nice.
I had chills.
It was nice.
Good, how are you?
She was so surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you're worried it'd be too loud or?
I think she did great. She was all together up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out good.
I think it was a beautiful thing. I mean, to do that in a small community.
Just, you know, like, John wanted us to like come back, but it actually worked out better to get over there.
Yeah.
So we did that. So
And then the next day it was separate.
Yeah.
It was,
So yeah, it worked out good.
yeah. Did you go the second day?
No.
That was nice because they had a lot of food.
I didn't know there was like a, I knew they were doing something, but I thought that was more the same.
No, they had a lot of food on the porch. I mean, I didn't partake, but it's very crowded. Yeah.
Mean anything in earlier.
But it worked out.
You know, I have a number of other things she thinks.
So use it.
Food buys everywhere. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Because then people have a conversation about what happens when.
Yeah.
My husband's mother is.
Oh, you say they want to have it all just.
8 years. No, she doesn't.
I don't think
She's got it in the cloud. So she thinks she's abominable.
Live forever.
Yeah, I'll do that.
But it's good. It means that we don't really have to worry about it. Drive now and not down here to come. It's 11. It makes me laugh.
Yeah, especially at night.
Yes.
So.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, thanks. But. Very late.
I can't, that's why I'm saying.
Very nice. Is that
Try
true?
to.
Postal places. Everyone needs a postal place.
Memorial Day.
Very nice. You know, a lot of men don't. Even my husband. Or, I mean, very young, I was enjoyed by everybody, so yes. And my son.
Now he's got like a low.
Right, no.
How are you?
Oh.
Last week too.
Yeah, I think it's time.
That's how you got there.
It's Western.
For a second, it looked like a whole ceremony, like that, right? It was like.
I don't know.
I did that.
You know, like- So I have to be very careful. He is teasing.
They don't tell me that. I was surprised. The irony, right? We have this remark.
Yeah.
What's up, John? How you doing?
How are you? Actually, you know what, I'm like, that's just because like, it's the running like, I got it destroyed for a time. I'm like,
There's all the
airs on?
Me too, but that's- Team meetings tomorrow. Senior meeting in summer.
I didn't know, because I just found out I got it myself.
Oh, really? I always run everything by Courtney, you know, by liaison, my liaison, it's on roll, what I said.
That's great.
So it's.
So what's the name?
I posted today, but it's a week, a week. Market movement. Think of anything. So we have a different name. And we've got one. We go with like. Engineering. Hell, we got like.
He's supposed to make.
Probably the lead out.
Don't say that.
That's your call. And we're also setting up a.
I think it's less now, but when it first happened. It was like everyone is like.
So they have got put in for. I would believe all this when I see it. It sounds stupid to be true. And you know what they say?
Hi, John.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Sean, I see you're somewhere. You let me know.
I'm not trying to be nitpicky. No, but I mean, I always think that.
Thanks, new agenda.
Okay, especially before a meeting, absolutely. Oh. I appreciate it, actually. I thought I was getting here early.
29.
She's so cute, so much fun. It was awesome, yeah. Now.
Yes, I did.
Oh, wait, Eric.
Oh, right, I know. Because it's 6:30.
6:39. Order.
So we.
Jane.
Yes, it's sorry. You ready? You're ready, I'm ready.
Yeah. Call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wish to announce that the 48-hour notice is required under the Open Public Meetings Act is emailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Co-Star, and the New Co-Star on December the 19th of 2024, that a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the borough office, and that a copy has been filed with the municipal clerk. As a courtesy to the public, this meeting may be attended via Zoom. If for any reason Zoom fails or is disconnected, the in-person meeting will continue without interruption, and action can and will be taken, provided that there is an in-person quorum. Mr. Noble? Here. Ms. Greenblatt? Here. Mr. Nowicki?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Here. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will move to item number 5 on our agenda, workshops. There are none. Item 6 on the agenda, presentations and bids. We're just going to take these a little bit out of sequence. The most likely to be time-consuming component of our presentations will be our Chief Financial Officer's presentation of our local municipal budget. But before we do that, I want to give us a couple of quick minutes to make some presentations that are also included on our agenda. The first one being the Centurion Anna Marcus proclamation by Mr. Councilman Weber.
Okay, I need a copy of that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I knew you said, yeah, oh, thank you. He's got.
We have it.
Thanks, Erica. I just knew I didn't have it.
Little
so.
bit. It was in
Um,
your council package.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Font is small. It's,
Nope.
Making it hard. So for, you know, the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Okay, well, apparently in Bradley Beach, it takes the whole town to wish every 100-year-old birthday. And that's what we did last week, and it was really fantastic. So I guess before I read this, I'm going to thank a lot of people, because this maybe was my idea, but a lot of people executed it. First and foremost, BA Matt Doherty. Thank you for coordinating a parade of borough vehicles. Chief, thank you, having the police vehicles in there, sirens ablazing. They're not in the room, but the fire department, they said yes, and their fire truck was in this parade of vehicles. And somebody, of course, had to drive it. First aid, same thing, a couple, there's DPW vehicles, there was a lot of things. Everybody that signed the card in this building, at the DPW, wherever, the family was really touched, they really liked it, so. And we got to meet the family, and everybody except for Councilwoman DeNoble was there because she was out of town, so we had a really great time. So this is what was read for the 100-year-old, the day after her birthday, when her family was having a big party at their place on 3rd. So a proclamation from the Borough of Bradley Beach for Hannah Marcus on her 100th birthday. Whereas the Borough of Bradley Beach is comprised of residents from all walks of life, from many geographical places and people of all ages, and whereas the Borough of Bradley Beach values those who choose to vacation here, whether they rent an accommodation or just spend the day on our beaches, as much as we value our summer and year-round residents. And whereas the borough values those who choose to purchase a vacation or weekend home here, and whereas the Marcus family is a prosperous and noteworthy family from Linden, New Jersey, and whereas Hannah's father, Morris Aaron, opened Morris Aaron Bicycles in Elizabeth, New Jersey in 1904, and whereas this business was in continuous operation by Hannah's family for 103 years from 1904 to 2007. And whereas Hannah Marcus worked in this family business alongside her husband Gilbert. And whereas Hannah Marcus and her family have been spending time in Bradley Beach since the 1960s. And whereas after renting homes on Ocean Park and Lorraine Avenues, the Marcus family purchased a home on 3rd Avenue in 1974. And whereas this home became the primary residence of Hannah Marcus and her husband Gilbert in 1987. And whereas Hannah Marcus has 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. And whereas Hannah Marcus had her 100th birthday on May 15th, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Bradley Beach declare May 15th, 2025 Hannah Marcus Day, and the week that follows, May 16th to May 23rd, to be Hannah Marcus Week. Be it further resolved that the borough and all of its residents wish the entire Marcus family all the blessings and joy of a wonderful birthday celebration in honor of centenarian Hannah Marcus. That's it. They had a family member make a great video of the two days of celebration. And mercifully, she completely cut out all of the whereases. She was like, okay, I said the first whereas, and then she went, now therefore be it resolved, and it was great. You don't need all that stuff in between. She made a great video, which we'll try and get out there because it's out in the public. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Councilman, I just want to take a time out to thank you, because when you first came up with this idea, I thought this could be challenging to pull it off. Not only did you pull it off, but the family was just in awe of Bradley Beach. And we had 60 or 70 residents attend. And it was just a wonderful feeling. We got to share that moment with the family as they all shared their love with their mother, who's obviously reaching 100 years old. And a number of people came up to me afterwards and said, this is what a small town is all about. So thank you for spearheading that effort. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
a lot of help, and I just realized with that many people showing up, Amy Hall helped get the word out on social and made a Facebook event and did all that stuff, so lots of help, and thanks, everybody.
Okay, our next presentation will be the EMS Week proclamation by Councilman Nowicki.
So many of our frontliners are, often forgotten about all the work that they do. So this is really an important thing. Is this week, May 18th to the 24th, is the Emergency Medical Service Week nationally. So the proclamation is, whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service And whereas the members of the emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical service system consists of first aid responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Service Week. Now therefore be it resolved, the mayor and the council of the borough of Bradley Beach do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th to the 24th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Service Week. Dated this day, May 2025.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. And I do see Mr. Vito Massa in the back row. Vito, are you able to accept this on behalf of the EMS?
Yes.
That'd be great. That's all.
Oh, I'd love to, yes.
We weren't sure someone was going to attend.
And Vito drove the ambulance last week.
Great.
No.
It's like fun trip.
We're gonna take a quick picture.
And we can, wherever you want. I don't know.
Not only did Vito drive the ambulance for the your birthday celebration, you were at least with the ambulance if you were driving it when everyone came and helped rescue my wife. So thank you for that as well. And thank you for everything EMS does for our community.
Yeah, on behalf of the squad, I'd like to thank the mayor and council and the members of town for recognizing the squad and what it does. And, you know, your support is greatly appreciated. And it's through that support that we can maintain our all volunteer service, which operates free of charge to the residents of Bradley Beach. So we appreciate that you allow us to continue to do that.
Thank you. And our next presentation will be Council President.
Oh, yeah,
Jane-
one more proclamation,
One more proclamation.
Yes.
Beyond the one I was just gonna say.
right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just, yeah,
Never mind.
that's okay. I thought there was another one. Council President Jane DeNoble will make the proclamation for Pride Month.
My honor. Whereas the governing body of the Borough of Bradley Beach recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2025 as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer questioning and plus LGBTQ plus Pride Month. And whereas all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, LGBTQ plus individuals have immeasurable impact to the cultural, civic, and economic successes of our country. And whereas the Borough of Bradley Beach is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ people in our diverse community. And whereas while society at large increasingly supports LGBTQ equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas the nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, and the governing body calls upon the people of this municipality to embrace this principle and work to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for the LGBT community, and is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing body hereby proclaims the month of June 2025 as Pride Month in support of the LGBTQ+ community. And if I may add, Asbury Park is celebrating the 33rd annual Pride Parade. It's Sunday, June 1st at noon. I've gone before. It's a wonderful day of celebration, and I highly recommend attending. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, on our presentations this evening, we have our CFO. Jeanette, are you good?
I'm good.
Getting more, yes, okay. We have our CFO about to present the budget, and even though this is a category of presentations, we will be opening up the questions and comments to the public. Normally, we might not do that in presentations. We were originally going to have a public hearing this evening. We now know that we need to make at least one amendment to the budget that's been introduced. At the same time, purely by coincidence, the state of New Jersey is reviewing various municipalities' budgets. We are on their list to be reviewed. And I'm told by our CFO, she can answer more questions, but I'm told that we actually won't be able to introduce, it's been introduced, I'm sorry. We won't be able to formally adopt until they have completed their review. So the hope is they will complete their review shortly. Our plan is to have another meeting on June 5th, in which we'll have a public hearing. It'll be our second opportunity for the public to ask questions or make comments. And at that public hearing, we will adopt the introduced budget, knowing that we have to make at least one amendment. We will then propose that amendment and adopt that amendment. But then we will need to have a follow-up on June 19th, where we will adopt the amended budget. And again, that'll consist of a public hearing. So effectively, the public's gonna have at least 3 bites at the apple, to ask questions, make comments, and whatever. So I just want to give everybody that background. Jeanette. The final comment I'll make is you're relatively new to Bradley Beach. We are thrilled to have you. But any questions, if there's any issues where you need me or others to jump in, let us know.
Okay, do we know that everyone on Zoom can actually see the?
It's being shared, the screen's being
Okay.
shared with anybody that's on. Is this on? It looks like it's on, no? No, no. Oh, maybe because of the red light?
It doesn't.
Just stay on. Just switch on the bottom and stay.
I just wasn't talking loud enough.
No, it doesn't amplify, it just picks it up
It
to
just
the
picks it up.
recording.
Okay. Right, so good evening, everybody. Thank you. Kind of turn it. Okay. So as the mayor explained, I am fairly new to the town. I kind of stepped into what you see before you. The budget synopsis that I'm going to go through tonight is a document that I didn't necessarily create, but it does tell the story of your spending and your taxation for the calendar year 2025. And certainly any of the detailed questions, I'm gonna push out to Mayor Gubitazi, and I'll answer any of the technical questions that you might have. So let me start by saying, go ahead, you can close. That this year's budget, with municipal budgeting, we're required to be within 2 caps that the state has imposed on us. And one is a 2% levy cap, and that's 2% cap on the amount to be raised through taxation. And that percentage, there are some exceptions to that, so debt service, some statutory expenditures. And it does change from year to year depending on the economics of the year. And then the other cap is a 2% cap on appropriation, so that's 2% on spending. So in other words, even if we had, you wanna do $1 million more into your spending and you had money to support it, if the levy cap wouldn't allow for it, you simply couldn't do it unless you got special permission from the state. So this budget is in compliance with both of those caps, so we met our statutory requirements. We're gonna overview the expenditures, what we call appropriations, revenues, capital, and things of that nature. So the budget for 2025, the appropriations is 11,140,811.36. This excludes the public library, so we pull that out because that is a separate tax on itself, and we do not calculate that. And within this budget, salaries, non-police and public safety, just salaries for all other general operations, is about 16%. And the remaining balance is comprised of your operating costs, statutory healthcare, liability, and debt service expenses. The police and public safety operations account for about 26% of all of the expenditures, and a little bit later in the presentation, you'll see where I have like pie charts that kind of point out where the different spending is and what those allocations are. And I misspoke when I said the appropriation, it's a 3.5% appropriation cap, I'm sorry. This year, the state allowed 2.5% for a COLA, cost of living adjustment. And then they allow us to do an ordinance, which if you pay attention and follow through with municipal budgeting, you'll see that every year there's a COLA ordinance that comes through before the budget gets adopted. And what that does is it allows us to increase that appropriation cap to a maximum of 3.5%. So there have been years where the cost of living adjustment was 0. And then you could do an ordinance in town to increase it by 3.5%. This year, they allowed for a 2.5% increase, so Bradley Beach did an ordinance for an additional 1%. And you always want to do that. It doesn't mean you're gonna spend all the money of the appropriation, sometimes it does, but the state also allows us to bank some of those unexpended appropriation allowances for rainy days, you know? Some towns do the max every year, some towns, you know, you can bank it for 2 years, so some towns do that. So it all really depends on what your budgetary needs are. So here's a pie chart of our expenditures or our appropriations. So you can see, that debt service, utilities, shared services, they all account for very small percentages. Your larger percentages would be, you know, your public works. Think about the larger departments that you have in town. It's perfectly natural for that to be. Public safety. Now, public safety is more than just the police department. It also encompasses, you know, dispatch, crossing guards, any facet of our operations that deal with public safety. Now, the flip side to the appropriations is revenues. Municipal budgeting requires, unlike federal budgeting, we have to have a balanced budget. So our appropriations have to equal the revenues coming in. So we can't, you know, budget for more than we can actually pay for. And so basically, we have revenues that we can anticipate every year. And then the offset would be the amount to be raised through taxation. So we have revenues that come through, such as franchise fees, licenses. You have a various amount of So you have your permitting fees from, say, UCC fees, your court charges, your interest on investments, which a few years ago was like zero, now it's become, it's been a little lucrative for municipalities, cell tower rentals. So those types of items are all used to support the budget. And then we use the amount to raise taxation to balance it. I talked about the cap. So each year, as I said, the state is going to determine what items can be excluded. So again, debt service is always excluded because that has to be paid no matter what, right? It can't be in default. And then other exclusions include, something that would affect our levy cap would be your added assessments. So when you have added taxes for new construction, the state allows you to increase your levy cap by that percentage of your tax rate, simply because they know that you'll be raising those taxes even though it wasn't on the books at that time. So they'll allow you to raise it for that. And then other things that are exempt are like your low staff payments, that is the length of service for our volunteers, so they're all exempted. This year, the state also allowed for some healthcare, so if your healthcare costs were increased more than what they allow, or basically more than what they deem to be appropriate, they would allow you to keep that outside the cap. Liability insurance is another item that has, the cost of that has gone out of control. So they've allowed us to, after a certain increase, they have allowed you to exempt that from the cap as well. So we do what's called the levy cap calculation, and it's a booklet that is put together by the state. We complete it with our budget information, and it basically will indicate, okay, you can put this amount outside the cap. Any grants that are within the budget are a net zero, because we're getting the money in and we're spending it, and basically the grant washes right off of your budget. So we just use that, the budget itself, as an indicator or a paper trail, if you will, of the grants that come in, and then they immediately get washed out of the budget and put into a separate ledger. Okay, so when we talk about revenues and what we're going to use, state aid is another one of the larger revenues that we can anticipate every year. And so what happens with the state aid, it's been flat since about 2010. Governor Christie came in, he had his toolbox, and the first thing he said is, we're not gonna give you any more money, whatever level you're at, the state can't afford it. We're gonna leave you at that level. And then occasionally throughout the years, when the state has extra money within their budget, COVID was one of those times, that they would give us some additional aid. Last year, we got some municipal relief aid, which is not afforded to us this year. So that was about almost $40,000 that was offsetting your taxes, money coming in that we're not getting this year. Any grants that are listed in the budget as prepared are not all the grants that you might see throughout the year. It's just what we have, what are known to us right now. So throughout the year, the departments, the professionals, the business administrators, everybody's searching for money. They don't know me well enough, but that's my first directive. Number one, go find me some money. And so they'll be looking for grant opportunities. And as those come in, you'll see those on a public agenda as what do we call a chapter 159, which is a special insertion of funds that we receive, because we can't spend any money that isn't allocated in the budget. So when those grants come in, well, our budget's already complete. So what we do is we do this chapter 159, we send it to the state, and now we can say we're adding this to a budget that was already completed. Again, as that paper trail goes on, the budget comes out. And then again, the elusive amount to be raised through taxation, which is really what everybody cares about, right? That's the amount that really matters to us. Surplus, you'll find surplus is another revenue that is utilized to offset your taxation. Surplus is the misunderstood terminology. Surplus doesn't mean that that's just extra money sitting in a bucket that we can just spend on whatever we feel like, because it's extra money. Basically, surplus is generated through, I told you about the revenues that are anticipated. Well, we have other revenues that are not anticipated, and we call those miscellaneous revenues, monies that we collect throughout the year that any one of those revenues might not be a very large number, but together, you know, a few things here, charges here and there, we add those up. Because we didn't account for them within the budget, we weren't anticipating that as a revenue, that will go to our fund balance or our surplus. And then it's also generated through the cancellation of budget expenditures. So we budget for a certain amount of money, if not all of that gets spent, it'll be reserved for 1 year, anticipating any expenses related to that year. So for instance, right now we're in 25. If anything comes through that wasn't account that an invoice, you know, usually happens closer in the beginning of the year, but occasionally things come through. It's an invoice from last year, so we don't charge it to this year's budget, we're gonna charge it to last year's budget. So the state allows us to keep the appropriation reserves open for 1 year. So that in 2026, whatever was left open in 2024 will now lapse into our fund balance. I bet you didn't know you were gonna get this big education on the municipal budget. So anyway, so that surplus then that's the money that we're gonna use, so that we can determine how much we have, how it's regenerating, and what we can afford to use to keep your taxes, you know, within the boundaries of what we're allowed and what's acceptable and all the other mitigating factors that go along with that. And it also enables us to have cash flow to pay bills, right? Because if we just started every year at zero and had no surplus and no money in the bank, how are we gonna pay bills for the month of January? We have zero tax collections coming in. So that's really the purpose of surplus. So you want a healthy amount of surplus, you know, sometimes I've worked in towns where in my opinion, they have too much surplus. But you want around, you know, a 10% to 15% of surplus. It is beneficial for operations, for cash flow. It's also beneficial for when we borrow money, because that is one of the indicators that the investors and like Moody's and all of our ratings come from, is they want to see how stable your finances are. And one of the things they look at, what's your revenue look like? What have you been, is it regenerative? Are you spending every bit of surplus every year to offset your budget? Those are things that they look for. So we always want to have, you know, a comfortable cushion there for those reasons. It's not the town putting money in, putting your tax dollars in the bank and not letting you benefit from it. You are benefiting from it in ways that, you know, at first sight, you might not necessarily realize. Okay, so this is the pie chart of the revenue. So as we see, taxation, the largest number there, about 77%. Surplus makes up about 10%. And then all of your other various revenues, including delinquent taxes. So we can anticipate an amount based on the amount of taxes that are still outstanding from the prior year. The interesting thing about when we are doing our budget and figuring out, well, how much can I anticipate for this current year? Well, we're only allowed to anticipate up to the amount that we collected in a prior year. So we don't usually like to do that because there's no guarantee you're going to collect. I'll give you a perfect UCC fees, so your permitting fees. 1 year, you can have a stellar year and collect a lot of money in those permitting fees. And then you might have a downturn in construction or anything. So when we're making these decisions, we're talking to the different departments, you talk to your construction official, you figure out like, you know, are there projects going on in town? What do we anticipate those to be? Even though we may have collected, I'm gonna make up a number here, 100,000 the year before, there's no guarantee that you're gonna collect 100 this year, so, you know, you have to use your best judgment, and over the years, you can start to look at the trends, and you can make educated decisions based on that. Okay, so this is a snapshot of the property tax levy and what it means for your municipal taxes. So everything we're talking about tonight is the municipal budget. Your tax bills are comprised of municipal, your local library tax, county tax, all the fun stuff, the open space in the county tax, all the components of the county tax, and your school tax. The only piece we're talking about right now is just the only one that the town actually has any control over whatsoever, and that is your municipal tax. So, your valuations have gone up from last year, and so, that's been the trend everywhere, right? So whether, and especially in Monmouth County, where you do your, your reassessments. Every year, the assessor can revalue the properties. So we know that the market is very strong at this point. So your valuation is $2,435,230,300. Your 1 penny is equal to $243,523. So every penny that your tax rate increases is going to net that much money towards the support of the budget. So your average home value for 2025 is $1,262,431. The average value in 2024 was $1,170,362. So you can see that, you know, the values of your homes are increasing, thus the increase in the assessed valuation of the town. The total assessed valuation of the town is also used for the county tax rate. That's how they determine what your fair share of the county tax bill is going to be. And then the average municipal tax bill based on those values, right? So if your home is worth a little bit more or a little bit less, these numbers would obviously change accordingly. But for 2025 is going to be about $4,443.76, and all of that will support all of the operations of the municipality. So the amount to be raised through taxation is going to be $8,563,365.56. That translates to a tax rate of approximately 35.2 cents per 100. And the increase, so I told you what the amount of your average tax bill would be, but the increase is going to be about $125.12 per year, which is about $25 or maybe $30 a quarter. So not terrible. And then the last piece of the budget is capital. So capital is basically the future spending plans on infrastructure, equipment, other projects that, you know, we're not necessarily gonna fund through a budget appropriation, a grant, that will be funded through, budget appropriation, grants or financing. So this year's budget, we do have, and I could ask the mayor to elaborate on what these capital projects planned are that are within the budget. So we had roof repairs, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, these are roof repairs. The police station has a leaky roof. We put aside some dollars there, I want to say in the magnitude of 30 or 40,000. The purchase of the public safety vehicle, I believe, is closer to 75,000. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that is typically annually we'll try to purchase one new police vehicle as we retire one of the older ones in the fleet. And then the streetlight repairs, we've actually had some downed streetlights over the past year or so. And what we've done is we put a metal plate over the live wires, but we have not replaced the actual street lamps. I think there's 6 of them down. 4 of them we have some money in a trust already, about not a lot, about 11,000, which is roughly the cost of 1 lamp. But we've got insurance claims submitted for at least 4 of the down poles. So we should have roughly, 5 lamps, 5 poles of cost available to us. And we would look at trying to make, complete those repairs this year, if we could do that.
So these capital, the cost for these capital improvements will come out of your, the capital improvement fund. So it's not through general, operations, it's coming out of capital. And this is another, sometimes when we do capital projects, we pay cash. And in these instances, that's what we'll be doing. And these, types of expenditures fall outside of the caps that I was speaking of as well. Okay, so then they're unrelated to your tax dollars is your utilities, right? So municipal utilities are created and utilized to maintain infrastructure and are financially solely supported, unless you through user fees. So there are two utilities in town, which you're aware. You have your sewer utility, which is $2,145,000, and the beach utility, which is closer to $3 million a year. Both of those utilities are self-liquidating. So what does that mean? It means that the fees that are collected are enough to support the operations, right? And that's what we want, right? We want the same things that happen with your current fund budget, because what triggers a tax increase is how much money do we need to support the budget, right? And we all know in our, in our personal lives, utilities is not, go to the food store and break the bank with that. So obviously you need more money to pay for that. Same thing happens with your general budget, and then of course with the utilities. So we need it to be self-supporting, and if it's not, that's when you hear of rate increases, whether it be for the sewer, your beach badges, or whatever other fees that go along with either one of those operations. So they're both self-liquidating, and that allows us, when we do capital projects out of those utilities, that if we need to borrow money, now we don't need a down payment. So customarily, you need a 5% down payment when you do capital improvement borrowing, you do a bond ordinance. But for the self-liquidating utilities, they don't require that, if they know that, you're fully supported. So snapshot of your sewer utility. Now, obviously, the utilities are a lot simpler. The number is a lot smaller of the overall budget, and you're only talking about a single department, really. So the expenses, largest expense for your sewer utility is the treatment costs. So we're budgeting $800,000 this year to cover that. Then your total operational costs are about $465,000, salaries and wages, and it starts to go down. Debt service and capital outlay. So you'll have your debt service payments, and then we'll allocate some money where you want to do, cash capital, things come up, emergencies come up, so you have a little money there. So the total of that is about $431,000, and then your statutory expenses, that's your pensions and the healthcare contribution and social security and taxes for payroll associated with this particular department are all budgeted there for roughly $80,000. Your beach utility, again, it's not a lot to it as far as, because the operations, although a lot goes into it, right? Most of your expenses come through salaries and wages. Think of all your lifeguards and the beach tag sellers and all of that's all your special police officers that are, monitoring the activities of the beach. So salary and wages is your biggest expense there. Again, we have debt service, statutory expenses, and then other operational expenses. That's, all of the items that your uniforms for everybody, the tags that you're selling, all of those items would be included in the utility operational expenses. So that's the overview of how the budget's put together and how it looks. And certainly, we welcome any questions, concerns, comments, answer the best we can. So you want them to come up right there, got a state name there?
Yeah,
What's-
please,
who's gonna be
please raise your hand and I'll recognize you. Okay, Mia first.
I was just gonna ask if you could go back to the slide where you actually had the 2025 tax rate,
Mhm.
and then there was a $4,000
figure.
Yes.
And the average.
She'll explain it, yeah.
2 million. So with that slide. Yeah, that's it, right, where. If the average home
Jeanette's
is
got that.
1.2, does that mean that average home is 4,000?
That's the municipal tax, right? So it doesn't include what your county taxes are, your school taxes. All of those components have a rate associated with them.
Okay,
And that rate is used to add their portion. So this is the amount that you pay that covers municipal expenses.
what we control.
Right, so your police and everything else that you get here.
Okay, and then you talked about the increase percentage, and you said not bad. How does that 4318, like, what was the,
That was last year.
that was 2020?
2024's average municipal tax portion was 4318.64. So the difference between the two is the $125 that the increase is expected to be for this year, for the municipal
For the
portion.
municipal portion.
Yes,
I misread that with the calendar year 2024, where the average one was 1.2.
that's, 1.2 for 2025. 2024, it was so
Oh, it's the 1.17.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, yeah, and then I just have a couple heads.
No,
up. And. Okay, and then the municipal part for that average home of 1.17. Oh, that's 20.
that was 2024.
Right, so that 4,300 figure applies as the 2024 average sale.
Yeah.
Average home,
Yeah.
not the 1.2.
Correct.
Okay, as I recognize people, if you would please stand up and give your name just so everyone knows.
Sorry.
Somebody had me.
312 Brilliant. Can you explain where the retro money for the back pay came from? Where the
So-
contract did come from surplus? Where did it come from?
Well, I would say, again, I didn't create the document, but I can tell you what the story the numbers tell. And that certainly, some of it is funded through an increase in surplus, but from when I reviewed the budgets for the prior years, other than last year, we're very close to what normally is anticipated for surplus. So some of it is there, then also some of it was existing from prior budgets so that they knew that the contracts were out. So you're still anticipating a little more salaries, because every year you think this is gonna be the year that we settle. And so so it's not like every nickel of the increases were just thrown in this year's budget. So certainly some were because you have the increases for this year. But some of the retro was already like baked in to the prior year's budgets. And then, of course, to offset that, the revenue is gonna come from, some from surplus, some from tax increases. I can't pinpoint, well, we needed, 400,000, so this is where it comes from. You build it and then you make, you fill in the blanks with the revenues.
Just for the record on that point, the previous administration over 2 years had reserved close to $300,000. That was basically we were able to allocate that much of the cost back to prior.
So money was always there then.
Not all of it. But, that would certainly help a step in the right direction.
And yes, so can I just explain that one side is cash and the other is the appropriation, right? So there was money, the cash money that resulted in people's paychecks. But now we also have to raise enough to increase the salary line items from, for all those years. So the cash came from one place, appropriations are increased for this year.
Yes. Yes, Mary.
Very much was waiting for that. First of all, I'd like to thank you for actually addressing the audience of taxpayers as opposed to having your back to us. That's actually something that's been rare, so really appreciate that. Thank you. And I also appreciate the fact that you've taken us through and explained things. I feel like I'm back in my UBA program, but, the only little quibble I have, and it's little, I prefer to see, you know, calendar year 24 versus 25 and vice versa in a, you know, a chart as opposed to,
Sure.
words and so forth, but otherwise, thank you very much.
I'll keep that in mind for next year.
Mr. Kenny in the back.
Herb Kenny, 215 Brindley, thank you very much for the presentation. Quick question, you know, this town was hit with a barrage of lawsuits. I believe some of them have hopefully been settled. Where do they show up here?
It depends on the type of lawsuit. So if it's a salary, no, I don't want to air it, but if it's a property or damage and things like that, then it would go, if it's a salary situation, it has to be budgeted within salaries, because our insurance won't pay the back salaries, they'll pay, anything that's not salary related, so if somebody's getting money for pain and suffering, the insurance company will pay that less our deductible. If it's some kind of property damage, they'll cover that, but if it's a salary situation, we have to,
So it shows up
We
in
have
the
to
base
eat that.
pay line.
So,
it's gonna be in the salary and wage line.
and Jeanette, I can add a little more. One of those lawsuits that has settled was related to the beach utility. Those salaries will appear in the beach utility. Another lawsuit that is about to settle, where we more or less have reached an agreement, we just haven't finalized it. Would hit the current fund because it was relating to a situation, you know, not in either of the utilities.
But when those hit, so you don't have like the standard, benefit, say calculation comes in, so you just get one base pay, but you don't have a multiplier. right?
No, because sometimes before they settle, we wouldn't even know,
Sure,
you know,
what's
so
it, cause there's kind of some,
we can only just anticipate based on what we
there's
think
just
it's
been
gonna
some
be.
comments, like editorials and things that say, weren't accurate, and if you're not adding benefits to that, then it's just a straight pay to baseline. Okay, thank you.
Yes, right.
Rick Bartolome, 116 North. I'm looking what was posted on the website. And it looks like the county tax, however, is decreasing. So our net out of pocket would be less than last year.
Well, it depends on how much it decreases, because the two components of the tax calculation is the assessed valuation and the rate. So if this evaluation goes up, the rates typically come down a little bit. So it depends on how much it came down. If it came down at a larger percentage than the percentage going up in the evaluation, then yeah,
So
it could even be flat.
what are the numbers that are showing on this budget that's posted? It has the rates about the county and the different categories of the county,
So
showing that the numbers are less this year than last year.
are you
which
talking
would
about the
offset.
municipal budget? You're looking at our budget? Yeah, so that is estimates.
Okay.
Because when that was created, the county and the school didn't have their budgets yet.
Okay,
So it's an
when do we
estimate.
anticipate that happening?
It really depends. I don't know when Monmouth counties are out. They should be out now, I guess. I don't know. We don't have any control over that, so
Right.
we just focus on this.
Okay.
We base the estimates on, last year and, you add a percentage and that's just an estimate.
Okay, another question I had, according again to this document, it shows that the reserve is 1,000,001 from over 2024. So that gets put in aside to be if anything comes up for the last year that gets this year.
Correct.
Now, what was the number then for 23, the reserve? Do we know what that was?
Well, it's not, the surplus you mean?
Yes,
I think,
I'm sorry, you're saying the anticipated surplus?
well, for 23, you should have, after 1 year, you should have what the number should be, correct?
right, but I don't
Yeah.
have that AFS. I can't tell you what the total amount of surplus
I
was.
just want to make sure I understand the question, Rick. When you're saying reserve, are you referring to the revenue line item? Anticipated surplus or?
No.
The amount.
Or the
amount
amount
of
that was-
reserve compared to 24, who actually was paid to the budget was 1,000,001,
So
whatever,
you wanna know what the actual total amount of the surplus was
for the prior year.
for the prior year?
The surplus, I'm not sure I'm
Yeah,
understanding.
that can be found on the financial statement. Yeah, how much, like,
Surplus did we have, even though we?
so that for this year, from 2024, I believe there was
I just don't-
a little over 2 million. That was regenerated from 2024. I'd have to look
That's
at
the
the.
total amount, but not
And
for
we
the
use one,
actual
and we're
year.
using 1.1,
Right,
right? The year before, I'd have to look at that financial
Okay.
statement, which also can be found online, but
okay.
I know it's a little bit.
And with this budget, how much do we anticipate the savings would be for this year to carry over?
We never had, so.
Or is that too much to ask? at this
No,
time?
it's not. Yeah, we hope that, there's many factors. What our goal is to regenerate what we're spending, so that you're, right? And that's what the anticipation is, but until the year is over, we don't know. We can only go by what past history has been. When I looked at this budget overall, and if you all just take a look at what was appropriated last year versus what's appropriated this year. It's very similar to last year's. The biggest increases were, of course, salaries, right? Because there was actually,
Well, the 2 years,
so your salaries and then your statutory expenditures. So your statutory expenditures went up nearly 12%. Again, statutory is your healthcare, your, not healthcare, let me back up. Your debt service, your pensions, your, all of those things that we have to pay by law, that there's no, you can't say, well, I'm gonna, lessen the amount of employees, or you have to do it. So that went up 11%. So that's where the increases came from. There's really nothing, it's basically similar to prior years, so my anticipation would be surplus should regenerate at the same rate.
But, and maybe again, I can add to this,
Yeah,
just because you're touching on what issues that I think should be shared with the public, but I haven't heard the exact words, so I'm just gonna volunteer some additional information. But the way budgets are built in the world of municipal government, you identify appropriations, which you expect to be more or less your expenditures for the year. And there are various caps and parameters within which we have to work. So if you're gonna spend money, and for example, these lawsuits that Mr. Kenny asked about, we know we're gonna have X thousands of dollars that we're gonna have to pay one time. We know we're gonna have the demolition of the church. We have to build that into our budget. That item is not in there yet, but we know we're gonna have to, pay that number this year. What we can't do in our budgeting world is anticipate the revenue from the sale of the church. We can't anticipate revenue that we've already locked into via shared services that we've structured early this year. We can't anticipate revenue for fees we've already increased that will take effect or have taken effect this year. So there's a lot of revenue out there that we know is coming, but we can't recognize it. And one or two folks have asked, well, you're above $1 million. Is that a number you can recover? Or, replenish from surplus? We're very confident we can replenish it. And part of the mechanism, I'll call it, that we use in municipal budgeting is we have to work on the appropriations. You have to clearly identify appropriations. We've built in significant increases for salaries. We had to. We've built in anticipated costs of these various lawsuits that we're trying to settle. We're not able to build in a lot of the revenue we know will be generated. So that's why the way you balance the new appropriations, most of which are one time only, they spike you in this year, a settlement, the demolition of the church, they spike you this year, but next year they go away. We can't build in revenue this year because it's any revenue we know is coming, but we didn't have last year. That's not anticipated. So what we do is we increase the anticipated surplus line, knowing that we're borrowing that from our existing surplus because we have that money. And then when the sale of the church goes through, presuming it will, when these new revenues are generated, we estimate that we have roughly 300,000 of new revenues coming brand new, just from all the other work we've done, shared services and increasing fines and things like that. What we anticipate that we're not even counting the church revenue, we anticipate that we're going to easily replenish the monies we're borrowing. I don't know if that helps, but there is that confusion. A lot of people don't fully appreciate the timing. Appropriations we can recognize right now, revenue we kind of have to wait on until we can realize it.
Right, and that was one of the things, thank you for bringing, that was one of the things that I didn't really touch on either with your new revenues. So, had the property already, and had the church already been demolished, and you had a contract of sale in your hand, we could have anticipated some of that revenue into the budget, but because we don't have a contract of sale, whatever, when it gets sold, when the money comes in, it'll just go directly to fund balance, and at that point, that in turn becomes surplus.
Rick, I don't know if that helped answer your question about.
No, I understand what you were saying, and I was just seeing if there was any, off the cuff type of
Yeah, there's no
estimate
calculation.
of what the reserve was gonna be for this year, just,
Yeah,
it-
we don't budget for a surplus, that's,
because the budget is just a guesstimate anyways.
Right,
it's a plan for spending.
and educated guesstimate, hopefully, and educated, as the guesstimate.
The older
nonetheless.
we get, the better we get at.
Question, yes, Ms. Kepler?
Beth Keppler, 504 Central. Just to be clear, is what you just spoke about, in regard to April 1st. During that discussion with, the previous CFO, you had indicated that there was $450,000 of receivables that were found. When that money comes in, even though it was from 2023, that would become part of what you're just now talking about, right?
Well, yes, this is a unique question. This is the capital.
That's, I believe that's debt service.
It is.
So it'll become a reserve to pay the debt service. So it's not gonna be surplus, it's not gonna be, and actually that might be a bigger
Was that
question.
all one thing that was found, or was that accumulation of a bunch of things?
Our prior CFO, so this is all part of our capital budget. And I learned, I did not know this, that within the capital budget world, we actually don't have receivables, even though you just referred to it that way, and I'm sure others have. When our prior CFO, John Barrett, when he identified this, he was going through paperwork basically related to shared services we have with Avon. And it was actually more than 450. I want to say it's closer to 470 or 480, but it's almost $500,000. And he sent us an email saying, hey, found this receivable. It's not a receivable, but it's money that we believe Avon owes us.
Shared services rather than, that's.
Yeah, it's reimbursing us
Under that umbrella.
for funding we did. So we think we've shared that with Avon. The mayor there is sharing it with their CFO. We don't really have that resolved yet, so that's why I'm hesitant to even refer to it as definite money coming back, but we think it might be money that Avon would owe us.
And I don't know what the repayment terms were, so there's a lot of investigating that still needs to be done to see. I doubt very much they're gonna write us a check for the $500,000 in 1 year, be very surprised, but that would be great if they did, and we can get the interest on that money, but yeah.
It's good to know it's out there that it might be available. It won't impact the budget one way or the other, but it's good to know that. we might have money. Any other questions in the audience? Is there a way to see, Erica, if there's anyone online with a question?
I can say, yeah.
Yeah, but we'll get it. Okay, are there?
No, it doesn't look like it. No.
Nope.
No hands.
Okay, as I mentioned, the public will get 2 more bites at the apple after tonight, at least 2 more. Hopefully we'll have the budget resolved in June. But thank you for your questions tonight. Seeing no other hands, I'll close the public discussion and move on to item 7 on our agenda, the approval of minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the May 6, 2025 council business meeting minutes.
Second. Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yeah.
Mayor Gubatose.
Yes. Okay, item 8 on the agenda, public comments or questions specifically pertaining to this tonight's agenda. Show of hands, Ms. Mullin.
Mia Mullen, 302 Fourth Avenue. I just want to echo what Mary had said in regards to the next meeting that we have. Very helpful to see last year compared to
We create that, like,
yeah, so people can put it in perspective what they're.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Okay, seeing no other hands, we will move on to item 9 on our agenda, which is ordinance introductions. And first on our list is ordinance number 2025-17, which is amending chapter 9, traffic of the boroughs, revised general ordinances. What, I'll just summarize this quickly and then I'll open it up to any council discussion. But basically what this ordinance is doing is restricting the employee parking lot out to the side and right immediately behind the building, the side being the north side, restricting it to employees between business hours, 8 AM to 4 PM. What we've been finding is we have a lot of folks going over to any of the businesses, parking in our parking lot, going, across the street to get something to eat, whatever. And our employees, when they've gone out to lunch, they come back and they don't have any parking spaces. So all this is doing is reserving the spaces here in our parking lot between 8 and 4 weekdays for employees and or borough business visitors. That's basically what this is doing. It's just an ordinance introduction at this point, so there won't be any broader discussion other than if the council has any comments.
I would like to add, earlier we had met and I had asked the mayor, can the seniors still park there for the Biasi Center? How about the Historical Society? If you're having a meeting in the Biasi Center, you're more than welcome to use that parking lot. So I had that clarified and I appreciate your time on that. Thank you, Mayor.
I had to convince the chief not to ticket all our seniors.
That would be tragic. Yes. Thank you, chief.
Is there signage in the parking lot indicating that?
There is not at the moment.
And can I just ask, and I guess this is more a question for you, chief. We're moving into summer. This is gonna be new. I guess this won't be in effect until we're actually in summer, but can we have a period where, special officers or maybe just keeping an eye, and if they see somebody, just give them a warning, because maybe somebody's been parking here lunchtime and going across the street or something like that for a very long time, just to get people used to it. Go gently into that new parking regime.
And Mayor, I'm also gonna go across the street to the businesses myself and just meet with all the owners or managers and give them a heads up of what's coming down.
But they're more than welcome to park there on the weekends, correct?
Yeah, this is just restricted between 8 AM and 4 PM.
And after 4 PM. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like that, Matt. That way they yell at you.
Yeah.
Good.
Any other council discussion or questions?
Mayor, isn't there also a requirement that, is that during the night, from a certain time at night, 12 PM to 5 AM?
It's also not.
You're not allowed to park as well, so that's just another, so people aren't just, camping out in the parking lot or, parking their cars there all through the night and basically living in their cars or through using it as a parking area. So that's something that's new as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So if no further comments or questions, I'll make a motion that we approve for introduction ordinance 2025-17, amending chapter 9, traffic of the boroughs, revised general ordinance.
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Noaky?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatose.
Yes. The second ordinance for introduction is ordinance 2025-18, military leave differential. Well, it's actually titled ordinance amending chapter 78, personnel policies of the borough's revised general ordinances to revise the borough's employee military leave policy. At a high level, what we're trying to do is tighten up our existing policy. We just want to make sure that it is serving its proper function, which is to make sure to a degree, anyone in military service, various branches of service have compensation available to them as support from the borough. But I would say we're trying to tighten up our definitions a little bit. And Mr. Cannon, I know you've been close to this is there anything more appropriate that you can add?
No, we'll work closely with the labor attorney to get this together and be good for the borough going forward.
And again, this is a first introduction so that you'll all have time to review it over the next few weeks and comment at adoption. So with that said, I'll make a motion that we introduce 2025-18 ordinance amending chapter 78 personnel policies, specifically with regard to employee military leave.
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. Now we'll move to ordinances for adoption. There's only one, item 2025-16. The ordinance supplementing chapter 115 animals and of the borough's revised general ordinances and specifically redefining pet waste. And this is standard statutory language provided to us by the state of New Jersey. Any comments or questions first from the council? I'll open this up. It's adoption. Open it up to public for comments. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close public comment.
Do we make a motion to open?
Nope. Open and close.
Open the door,
Sorry.
close the door, anybody?
I was trying to move quickly, a little too quickly.
Okay, can we just make a motion to open?
I'll make a
so we can
motion
do
to
this
open.
correctly?
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. One more shot. Anyone care to make a comment or question? All right, I'll make a motion to. What's the one? Okay, I'll make a motion to close public comment and adopt 2025-16. Supplementing chapter 115 and specifically defining pet waste.
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. Okay, we will move to item 10 on the agenda, communications. We have I have a couple of appointments to announce. One is Environmental Commission appointment for Ms. Carol Conway. Is she with us tonight, by any chance? Okay, she is being appointed to join our Environmental Commission. The Arts Council alternate appointment of David Rosenblatt. Is David with us tonight? Okay, David is being appointed to the Arts Council as an alternate. I have a couple quick announcements, communications to make. One is we are going to hold a business open forum on May 28th at 4 p.m. at the firehouse. And this is, the idea is to get our businesses, give them an opportunity to have an open forum with the mayor. I'll probably try to enlist one of the council members so we don't have a quorum. And I'll probably try to enlist our business administrator, Mr. Doherty, who spends a decent amount of time with our businesses as it is. And it really is going to serve as a bit of a roundtable, just so businesses can ask questions, give us suggestions, whatever. As I mentioned, it'll be at the firehouse, 4 p.m. the 28th, and you'll see more of that in the newsletter to come. Financial updates, I just want to give folks a sense of a couple of things. One, our auditor is going to be starting his audit probably the very early part of June. He specifically said he wanted to give our brand new CFO a little time to just get acclimated, and I think time is up, Jeanette. But Jeanette's going to need to put together some exhibits for him, I don't know, trial balance data and so forth. So he said he will get the audit underway. He anticipates, he still doesn't know the quality of the data, but he believes last year's data was much better than the year before. He's hoping it'll continue to have improved. So he does expect at this point, it's very preliminary, to be able to complete it by the end of August. August is the anticipated date that the state is going to require completion. I already mentioned that we were going to try to hold public hearings for this budget, June 5th and on June 19th. Just as awareness to folks, we've identified an old bank, PNC Bank, had 26, people have asked us over the months, why do we have so many bank accounts? And, why don't we close some of them? Well, we found 26 that are basically had no money in them. 25 had no money. One has a good amount of money, but PNC, last week, we identified these and we closed all 26. The one account that had a substantial amount of money, about $700,000 in it, we transferred that money to our current bank, Provident. And we believe that money is, we're trying to investigate to be sure. But it looks, the way that money accrued, it looks like it came in during the beach season. Very likely came through community pass revenues that were tied to daily beach badges. That's my best guess. We don't know that for a fact, but it was just shy of $697,000. The borough knows this money exists. We didn't find new money. We just found it in a place we didn't expect. We thought it was already at Provident Bank. So the good news is moving forward on that. The one challenge with that is, and I'm trying to work through this now with PNC Bank, is we were being assessed processing fees for accounts where we'd had no money. So we're gonna work with them to see if we can resolve that. But just wanted to let everyone know that with one fell swoop, we were able to eliminate about 25 accounts for anyone who's worried that the borough had 60 plus accounts. So that's a good thing. Also, Mr. Fred Ibino, who I introduced to us all a while ago, as he's been on assignment, a relatively modest $5,000 assignment to give us a look back of our finances over the last couple of years, just to make sure everything looks copacetic. He has submitted to me a draft report. He and I are going through that, and once he finalizes that, he's agreed that he'll be in a position to present it to the borough in June, one of our 2 June meetings. So that,
Those,
go ahead.
those processing fees were monthly or?
What I know for a fact is that last month, March, well, 2 months ago, in March, we had a $3,000 fee
For 1 month?
for 1 month, but I requested 4 years of statements, so we're going to do a much deeper dive once we know.
And these accounts are being closed, correct?
They've all been closed,
Okay.
but while they were open, we were getting assessed analytic fees. So, but again, I just want to make everybody aware we're making strides towards cleaning up, some of the outstanding issues.
Well, thank you for that.
And finally, just a quick update on Lorraine Avenue. And by that, I obviously mean the Methodist Church at 319 Lorraine. We've completed the public auction. For the most part, that went very well. The challenges were probably tied to getting folks in to remove windows and so forth. The logistics of removing a lot of the artifacts has been a bit challenging. We enlisted DPW to help us a lot with that, the scheduling of that. We plan over the next few weeks, we plan to arrange access for either salvage companies or individuals, residents in town. It'll, the items that are left, we no longer are required to sell or hold open public auctions. So now anyone who's interested, if they want to make a donation to the Historic Society or something, they can. But if you're interested in a pew or other things that are there, if you would work through, I'll say, yes, Mr. Doherty.
Yeah, if they could work through me, because I have a waiver that our attorney put together for folks to sign before they go into the church.
Yeah, nobody's going in without number one, signing the waiver, and number two, letting us know. The doors are still padlocked, so unless you're climbing through a window, you're not going in.
There are no windows now.
Yeah, there are no windows. That could be a challenge.
Yes.
Okay, so with the auction and the artifact removal largely behind us, we expect that'll be another 10 days and probably into the first week of June. We expect during the month of June to have the actual demolition. As I mentioned, we do have to modify our budget to make sure that we can account for the funding for the demolition in our budget. And we expect, we're hopeful that after June 5th, after the meeting we have scheduled June 5th, we'll be able to begin the demolition. That obviously has to be coordinated with the demolition company, and it could get pushed into the latter part of June. People have raised questions about bats and about rodents and about other animals that may be living in the buildings. And when I say plural, it's because we have the church, but we also have the parsonage building. Mr. Doherty, do you want to give an update on the bats in particular?
Sure, we had Crowley's in to take a look at all the rodents and they're working with our DPW director on coming up with a strategy to remove and contain whatever's there prior to demolition.
Because the bats, as you shared with me, are a protected species of sorts.
Yeah, so they're a little bit more complicated than mice and other
Mice,
vermin.
yes, so rodents of various sizes and shapes, we have all kinds of extermination things in both buildings. And we've, in the church, we've had that for a couple of months, more recently in the parsonage. But the bats have been a new challenge and we're
Have they
quickly
actually
addressing that.
identified?
But do we know
bats
that there's
in
actually
there?
bats? Do we know
Yes.
that for a fact?
Yes,
There are.
We found bats,
yes.
I see the.
You seem
so.
Are they in the Belford?
And then,
I'll take the bats in my house. They eat a lot of mosquitoes,
I
so
understand that. I just
I'll
put
take
that
the
down.
bats.
Haven't seen bats though.
and that's why we have no mosquitoes in the church.
Right, no mosquitoes, yes.
Now,
CFO was gonna charge him for staying in the church. so
That's
we
why we're
raised some
gonna get
revenue
rest
that
from
way,
them and.
well, and the final update on 319 Lorraine and 317 Lorraine is that we plan to conduct the sale of these 4 subdivided lots, residential lots, no later than the August timeframe. If possible, July, that might be pushing it a little bit to advertise it correctly and get the right interest and hopefully the right price. It'll likely fall into August, but hopefully before the end of the summer. That's the plan. Those are my updates for communications. Let's move to item 11.
Can I just
Yes,
ask, can you
please.
just share the protocol for any environmental hazards? So neighbors who are nearby during the demolition can know what to expect for any hazards that are in the building, like either asbestos or.
Well, yeah, the main hazard is asbestos, and there's an asbestos removal company now that is, that's on site.
Well, they just did the house. So
They
I'm assuming they're
did the
coming back
house.
to do the church.
And they have to do inside the house, and then they'll do the church. You know, we've already made sure that our engineer is looking over their work and as along with the New Jersey Department of Labor. They're the ones who actually regulate asbestos removal.
Yeah, and we did follow up just recently with our engineer to make sure that all guidelines are being followed, especially when we get to the massive project of taking down the church.
So people don't need to be concerned during the physical demolition about anything that's airborne, people nearby, should they be closing their windows or?
Well, I mean, they should close their windows, not because of asbestos, but just because of dust. We're gonna do our best, you know, keeping water on the debris as it comes out, but it's inevitable that some's gonna escape and potentially get on, you know, other additional houses. So, yeah, we're gonna make sure, because we didn't do a very good job announcing the initial asbestos removal. So we're gonna do a good job announcing in advance to the residents in the area when the demolition is gonna start, so they can plan ahead.
So is there a reverse 911 that goes out, or are the residents gonna be notified?
Honestly, old schoolers gonna knock on their doors.
Yeah, but I mean, we
Flyer,
really,
knock on their door.
so the full answer is we don't have that notification plan yet. We think we're at least 2 weeks away, maybe more, 3 to 4 weeks possibly. And we did already for a separate related challenge we face with our sewer system, we did do the old fashioned knock on doors. Only to find out the folks knocking on doors couldn't get into a couple buildings because the buildings were locked. And you're missing 8 or 10 residents in condos or rentals. So we do have to fine tune our strategy for what, the old fashioned way. That said, we're gonna communicate it extensively. It'll be direct, mails of some sort, hand delivered or US mail, newsletters, things like that.
So is it like just within a requisite number of feet from the building? I mean, how far out do you have to go?
Well, the
with
whole
this?
world will know if they're reading our newsletters, but in terms of specific mail delivered, we'll figure that out, but it'll probably be a couple streets either way.
Yeah, think about like land use is within 200 feet, so maybe do something along those lines.
We'll do more. We're gonna err on the side of safety. They're following by law, they have to follow all of New Jersey's, requirements. So, we're gonna take this building down as safely as we possibly can and communicate it as thoroughly as we can.
And the road is closed off during the demolition?
No, we want to
The
keep
block?
that, we want to keep it wide open, and let little kids play there.
To give everyone an expectation of what it's gonna be.
Donna, why don't you give us a list of all your questions? Oh, well,
There's somebody out there that's wondering
No, I
with
know, but
every
we,
question.
no,
I
I
ask.
know, I'm teasing, but we, as I mentioned, we're gonna finalize the communication plan, but there are questions we just don't yet have the answer to,
Thank you.
but we will absolutely be safe. But I am joking.
Mayor, a question
yes.
on the auction.
No more questions.
Okay, a comment on the auction. When will we share, like, what is the outcome of the auction as far as revenue that was earned and when will that be available?
It should be available, you know, probably by next meeting, we'll give some sort of an update, because we're still working through some of the removal of items, and some of the revenue may go down because some people haven't yet picked up their items. Other things may still sell, like through salvage and whatever, so hopefully, if not the next meeting, the second meeting in June.
Okay, great, thank you.
And by the way, everybody, spoiler alert, it's not a lot of money.
But I thought it was great. Like, a lot of people got to go in and see the church that have never seen it before. And I bought something. So it's just nice that people can own a piece of history. And I think even now, like, there's still a lot of Bibles left, Spanish Bibles, there's chairs, there's artwork. And I'm happy that people are gonna be able to get that for free and take it. I just, I hate to see things go into a landfill, and especially from a church. So it was really nice, inclusive process. Sometimes, it's about the money, and sometimes it's about doing things right. And we did it right.
And while council president was able to purchase something, I was outbid. Somebody sniped me at the last second. I said, that's not.
Yeah, oh,
Do we have a question?
Wait,
Hold on one second. No, Mr. Nishemkin, you're gonna have to wait till the end of the meeting, to comment. But he'll have more information specifically on the artifacts. Okay, we'll move to resolutions. The consent agenda resolutions. Are there any items anyone wants to comment on or vote on separately?
looks good.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve consent agenda resolutions 2025-186 through 2025-189.
Ms. DeNoble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. Okay, individual resolution 2025-180, authorizing the Borough of Bradley Beach to enter into a cooperative pricing agreement with the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing System. I should say that this and a number of these others, the next three after this, are all recommendations by our new QPA. Just to make these things available to us to the extent we can save some money. So any questions on 180?
Nope.
Make a motion to approve 2025-180.
Second?
Ms. DeNoble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. 2025-190, authorizing participation in the New Jersey Wastewater Cooperative Pricing System of Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission, PVSC. Same thing. Any questions or comments? I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
2025-190.
Second that.
Thank you.
Ms. DeNoble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. 2025-191, authorizing contract through New Jersey Division of Purchase and Property Contracts. And I'm gonna skip the rest, 19 probably. Any comments or questions? I'll make a motion, we approve 2025-191.
Second?
Ms. DeNoble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. 2025-192, authorizing a memorandum of understanding between the Borough and Laborers International Union of North America, Local 77, for the temporary employment of local union labor as may be needed by the borough. And I'm gonna comment on it too. but
No.
I'll wait for your
Maybe
question.
you will answer.
I may have the perfect answer.
Go,
Okay.
make your comment.
So this is an entity, it's a union, not a Bradley Beach Union, that nonetheless provides certain levels of labor at an hourly rate. It's an hourly rate that includes not only the labor costs, but some of their other statutory costs like for pension and healthcare and so forth. But there are times, and we probably passed those times right now, with last few weeks, last month, DPW's been hurting for staffing and probably could have used this labor pool to draw on a few people for a few hours in a given week. We probably are beyond that time right now. And the preference, I talked to Biagio Cofone about this, the preference is where we do have extra work, these folks, when you add up all their component parts, their cost to hire them is very comparable to a lot of our folks working overtime. So all things equal, we'd rather pay our own employees as long as they're willing to work overtime. That said, if DPW in particular is really in a pinch, Biagio's really happy to have this opportunity to draw from this pool. And Mr. Doherty has already connected with the union to make sure that the union doesn't have any concerns about us drawing from a different union pool. But it would be, I would think, in an extreme situation, and we may never take advantage. It's just there if we need it.
So is the expectation like we use them for, say, we have to build something, or are we gonna get extra labor if we need help? I don't know, picking up garbage cans. Like, is it all the above or?
All
is
the
it-
above.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
painting, building, garbage.
Masonry work, landscaping.
Okay,
It's, as the mayor mentioned, it's as needed. So if you use it, you pay for it. If you don't use it, you don't pay for it.
great.
And there is no, you already confirmed there is no conflict between unions? Or are you gonna verify that?
I spoke with Mike Thompson, the representative from UFCW, informed him what we're looking at doing. He didn't see any conflict. Now, this doesn't replace any borough employees. It doesn't replace hours for any borough employees. It simply supplements if there's additional need, and it also replaces having to hire contractors. So, you know, if you'd have to hire a contractor for masonry or for landscaping, right, instead of having to pay them, plus, you know, you gotta pay their, you know, they're gonna get their 10-20% profit, which is fair. You just hire the labor and it all works under the DPW anyway.
I'll say for the record, the goal is to not ever have to access this group. I mean, they've got skill sets that we might be able to utilize, but the hope is to not have to use them at all. But as the union is aware of them, and Biagio also knows that first and foremost, we want to make sure our own people are appropriately compensated. So that is the plan at this point. It's just another resource that we have available to us. So with that said, I'll make a motion to approve 2025-192, authorizing the memorandum of understanding between the Borough Laborers International Union of North America.
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. 193, approval of a lien redemption refund for 611 Park Place Avenue in the amount of $1,418.73. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. Resolution 2025-194, establishing the bid threshold to 44,000 for calendar year 2025. This is, as our new QPA described it, a house cleaning item. He just wants to make sure that we have current documentation. Every year, we should reaffirm that this is our bid threshold. Not for professional services, but which remains right now at $4,000, but for all other acquisitions. Otherwise, his concern is only that somebody could challenge the limit without this is for the borough to authorize 17,500. With this, the limit is 44,000, and the actual 44,000 is already in place, but we just had not restated it for the record. So any questions on this one? All right, I'll make a motion that we approve 2025-194.
Second.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Greenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Gubatosi?
Yes. Item 2025-195 is the bill list for May 2025. Any questions or comments? Councilman Greenblatt.
I had a question. So I see on page 8 of the bills list, an Avakian, charge of 4,536 and change. It's related to the Ocean Avenue and the promenade, and I'm wondering, is that the outflow pipe?
No, that should be beach utility, by the way. I don't know. what
Yeah.
The codex is.
I
Okay.
would assume.
Yeah, that we engaged Avaki and the engineering firm to evaluate a lot of the changes we have since undertaken on Ocean Avenue. To expand our site triangles entering Ocean Ave, 5 or 6 streets that enter Ocean looking north. Site triangles, we've removed 1 or 2 parking spaces for a total of maybe 8 spaces removed. Just to improve site triangles, as well as looking at where we would be able to place the wheelchair access pickup and drop off spots. So they did analysis for us to make sure we had those in the most appropriate locations.
Okay. Thank
Oh,
you.
and they coordinated with the county to make, it's a county road, to make sure we could make the changes. That's what that was for.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
My questions were answered. Thank you very much.
All right, then I will make a motion to approve 2025-195, the bill list for May 2025.
Second,
Ms. DeNoble,
yes.
Ms. Greenblatt,
Yes.
Mr. Nowicki,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Guggentosi.
Yes. Item 12 on the agenda, announcements, there are none. Item 13A, the item that you've all been waiting for. The administrator report, Mr. Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First thing I want to recognize, one of the resolutions you passed in the consent agenda was adding additional counselors for the camp. Because of the hard work of Courtney Pappas, our rec director, she was able to get those counselors, which allowed her to take all the children off the wait list. So every child who wanted to be a part of the Bradley Beach Camp this summer will now be able to be a part of it. So she's worked on that for the last 2 months to make that a reality. So I just want to recognize her.
And before you continue your report, I would just want to add to what you're saying. I had 2 different individuals, parents, basically say, my kid's on the wait list, what are you gonna do about it? So, I mean, there really was a wait list that people really wanted their kids in. So thank you, Courtney.
So you're stealing my thunder because I was aware there were 35 students on the wait list and that the rec department was actually looking for more staffing. So have they already fully staffed up for?
Well, because of the resolution you voted on tonight, during the consent agenda, those new counselors will allow them to remove those, take those 30, I should say, were able to take those 35 off the wait list and put them in.
So they're no longer looking for additional counselors or,
Not after tonight yet, no.
okay, great.
So, good job, Courtney. We mentioned the parking lot, this is something that was brought up since day one.
Thank you.
One other thing that we're gonna start, gradually, is taking credit cards at Borough Hall. Instead of just checks and cash, we wanna start moving into taking credit cards as well. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a process, we have to go through procurement, but eventually, we're gonna start taking credit cards as well. As the mayor mentioned, if anyone does wanna get into the church for salvage, please just email me, da@bradleybeachnj.gov. We have a waiver to sign, and then we'll work out a time, a schedule with Department of Public Works for folks to get in there. And at this point, we can take whatever you can carry out. And lastly, I just wanted to recognize and thank the hard work of the Memorial Day Committee, particularly the employees here in Bradley Beach. Courtney Pappas, one more time for her. Also Amy Hall, and of course, Michelle Wiley, who truly puts her heart and soul into this event. So that's all for me, Mayor. Any questions from the council? Thank you.
Good job on the credit cards. You're fulfilling the saying that we started a while ago, dragging Bradley Beach into the 20th century. Say 20th on purpose.
And dragging us into 2025 with presumably credit card fees.
Yeah.
Presumably a fee for use of credit card.
Yeah, so if you use a credit card, we have to charge you the fee, because if you buy a beach badge with a check or cash, it can't cost any more or less for someone else because they use a credit card. So yeah, we have to by law pass that credit card fee on. We cannot eat it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your report. We'll now move to item 13B on our agenda, which is mayor and council reports. And let's start with Councilwoman Greenblatt.
So I'll start with the, my less lengthy, Recreation Department, report. The Recreation, Board held its last committee meeting on May 12th. Father's Day Kickball is scheduled for Friday, June 13th at 6 p.m. at the Recreation Field. The event is open to all, but those who want to participate must register on Community Pass. The cost for participation is $16 per person and includes a t-shirt and meal ticket. Refreshments will be available for purchase for general guests. Be sure to attend this weekend's Memorial Day festivities. The Rec Committee volunteers will be on hand Saturday morning at the Promenade Fair to assist with vendor sign-in. A reminder about ongoing events. The Senior Club meets tomorrow, May 21st at noon at the Biazzi Center. The next meeting is June 25th, and it is the birthday celebration month. Be advised that they will not be meeting for July and August, but will start back up in September. Afternoon pickleball runs from May 21st to June 3rd, 4 p.m. at the Rec Center courts. Spring bocce runs from May 6th to June 24th. Summer League registration opens on June 16th. Salted Yoga will host 5 sessions this month. Check the calendar on the Recreation webpage for dates. Bowling night is planned for Wednesday, May 28th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Bradley Bowl. It is $12 per person and includes shoes and a 2-hour bowl. Please go to the Recreation homepage for details and Community Pass for registration. The Rec Board's next meeting is Monday, June 9th at 6:30 p.m. at the Rec Center. Fletcher Lake Commission met on May 8th. A Fletcher Lake cleanup is planned for Saturday, June 7th, 10 a.m. to noon. Everyone is invited. Refreshments will be served, and many thanks to our DCW for providing gloves and bags for the cleanup. Aerators were just installed for the season, and a special thanks to the Neptune Township DPW. The commission is interested in installing LED lights on the aerators around Fletcher Lake. They hope to do a pilot with 1 light initially. In order to gain community input, the commission presented this plan to Neptune Township already and hopes to present to the Bradley Beach community at our next council meeting. And here's another big plus for goose remediation. At Fletcher Lake, a variety of waterfowl have returned to the lake. In addition to the muskogee ducks, there have been sightings of cormorant, mallards, blue heron, and egret, along with 2 visiting swans. Also reported was an 18-inch bass that was caught in Fletcher Lake. The next commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 12th at 6 p.m. The Arts Council met Friday, May 16th. The Arts Council will host Summer Palette, an art exhibit at Posh Real Estate, June 7th through 14th. An artist reception will be held on Saturday, June 7th, 4 to 6 p.m. There will be a book talk and signing event for Bradley Beach author Laurie Crine's newly published Chasing Bruce, as in Bruce Springsteen, Chasing Bruce Through the Backstreets and Beyond at Posh, Wednesday, June 11th from 5 to 7 p.m. Everyone is welcome. The Arts Council will be doing outreach to begin engagement with volunteers. They have been invited to attend the first Arts Council exhibit hosted by Posh. The next Arts Council meeting is scheduled for Friday, May 30th at 2 p.m. And that is my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I'm gonna jump around to Councilman Nowicki.
Thank you, Mayor. I initially got a police activity report saying nothing to report, and then I got another email about an hour before this meeting that I was like, wow. So they're doing their job, and thank you, Chief. Shortly after saying this report, we had a significant arrest for burglary, theft, and receiving stolen property. Patrols fielded a call for reported motor vehicle burglary on Newark Avenue. At the same time as this call came in, a resident handed over a phone to dispatch they claimed some woman gave them as they were walking on Main Street. Dispatch was able to get a description of the woman who handed the subject the phone as patrols on the burglary scene obtained surveillance videos from the victim's home security system. The phone turned in by the woman was in fact stolen, and the surveillance video of the burglary confirmed the suspect was the same woman in both incidents. K-9 Sergeant William Major quickly checked the area and located the suspect at the Asbury Park train station. Subsequent investigation revealed the suspect was a wanted person out of Atlantic City and was also in possession of several other burglary proceeds, including mail from a local business, numerous stolen credit cards, driver's licenses, health insurance cards, mail, and other personal items from several victims. So far, victims of her crime spree have been located in Neptune, Ocean Grove, Asbury Park, and Atlantic City. The investigation is ongoing. So that was a wild moment.
Why you phone and then turn it in?
On the first aid front, for the operational period ending May 20th, the squad responded to 10-day calls and 6 night calls for a total of 16 calls. 12 were for medical, 4 for fire calls. The squad conducted 1 drill for the safety and education of the membership. The squad provided medical overwatch for the Tears Foundation Walk. The squad participated in the celebration of a Bradley Beach resident who turned 100, as we spoke about earlier. And squad requested no mutual aid assistance for this operating period. The squad fulfilled 100% of their assignments for this operational period. They are still looking for volunteers for the first aid. We offer training for qualified individuals. Anyone wishing to volunteer for the first aid squad, applications can be found on the borough's website. And the fire report is for the month ending April 30th, the fire department responded to 3-day calls, 3 night calls for a total of 6 calls. 3 were fire alarm activations. 1 was a smoke condition and 2 were carbon monoxide alarms. One of those yours, Mayor?
They were probably both mine.
The department conducted 1 training and 1 community service event, the annual egg hunt. There were no requests for mutual aid from other fire departments. The department fulfilled 100% of our assignments this operational period. I'm happy to report 2 probationary firefighters are enrolled in the Summer Fire Academy class beginning May 12th. I am also happy to report that the fire department acquired much needed fire engine from the borough, from the Broughton Volunteer Fire Department in Broughton, Pennsylvania. This 2001 Sutphen 2,000 gallons per minute pumper was purchased with donations contributed by the residents and friends of Bradley Beach. The department is extremely grateful for this support. Keep it up, and thank you all for your service. On the Sylvan Lake front, Thursday is the Sylvan Lake meeting. The Thursday? Yes. Wednesday, tomorrow. And other than that, there's nothing to report. I'll report on Sylvan Lake's progress at the next meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll turn to my right and ask Councilman Weber to present.
Okay, I'll start off by wishing everybody a happy Hannah Marcus week, because it is Hannah Marcus week according to the proclamation. And I want to re-thank everybody that had something to do with that day, which or a couple of days, which was great. And I should have mentioned that the local assembly women, Margie Donna and Luann Peter Paul, they came and had their own proclamation from the state, which was pretty cool because the crowd was like the family doesn't live in the district, these are elected officials, and they came anyway because they heard about it, they thought it was really great. So there's some video about them doing that as well. Memorial Day is coming up. Happy Memorial Day in advance. I hope for great weather, and yes, thanks to everybody that's working really hard on that. Michelle especially, obviously, she does that every year. DPW, people have been hearing about how hard DPW is working, but they are out there. And town is looking good, and they're getting it all done as far as I know, which I think they definitely are. On the community development front, just gonna mention a couple things as reminders, not that anybody's complained about these things or anything like that. But we have an ordinance for putting your trash in a can with a lid. You can't put out loose bags. And I'm saying this hoping that, we got all these summer residents that are gonna come back, and if we as year-round residents can do it right and lead by example, then maybe we'll get everybody doing it right, and we won't have a trashy looking town that the Fox or the Seagulls or whatever can get in loose bags. That trash has to be in a can with a lid. There's also an ordinance that you can't put trash cans like in your front yard. They're supposed to be hidden, so that's just a great reminder there. And we also have an ordinance about bamboo. If you have bamboo in your property, it can't be getting into your neighbor's property. Be mindful of that, and for goodness sake, please don't plant any bamboo. Speaking of invasive species, the Environmental Commission, on the day of the Fletcher Lake cleanup on June 7th. We are gonna do at the same time, and now I know that they're serving snacks, so this is good. We're gonna climb on that, but in the Maritime Forest, we're gonna do the knotweed removal, Japanese knotweed. It's an invasive species, and it was there before we planted the Maritime Forest, and it keeps coming back, so we just have to cut it. You know, just think of it as glorified weeding, and we'll, come join us and help us. We need volunteers because there's a decent amount of it. And I would like to say that the mayor, it was probably on News 12 tonight as we were having this meeting, correct? Okay, so they were doing a story on beach badges, and some advocates pointed out that a handful of towns out there are doing it well with the way they deal with their beach badges and their beach utilities and the money and all that stuff. And Bradley Beach is one of those towns. The hook on the story was that there's a town around here that will remain nameless that decided to charge $200 for the beach badges for the year, right? And so by contrast, we have towns that are doing it right and have been. It's not new in this administration, but apparently we've been doing the right thing with our beach badges, beach money, and so you were interviewed, correct?
I did. I was given about 5 minutes advance notice, but yes, I shot down to the beach. And just on this point, I know the motive was to compare and contrast a beach town that quote unquote does their budgeting correctly versus ones that they may be spotlighting for negative reasons. But what was nice and interesting was he wanted to interview me down by the Evergreen entrance where we've done the handicap drop and off and pick up, where we have the 10-foot wide Moby mats and the handicap shower access. So it was interesting. I hope some of this made the air. I have no idea, but he was asking me about specifically when you have a surplus in your beach and you what do you do with that surplus? And the answer, funnel it back into the beach. And he obviously knew that answer because he said, so for example, all this, and gave us a chance, or me a chance, to highlight the things that Bradley's doing, in this case to expand services, especially for wheelchair bound individuals. But of course, everyone using at least Cliff Avenue Beach and Evergreen Beach are going to benefit from 10-foot wide Moby mats, nicer showers, and again, the pickup and drop off location. So it was a nice spotlight. Again, I think I talked for 5 minutes and he said it'd be a 30-second clip.
Sounds about right. So everybody rush home and either watch News 12 online or on TV. So that is the extent of my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, last and certainly not least, Council President Jane DeNoble.
This will be quick, I promise. Okay, tourism did not have a meeting this month, but Amy Hall does want to remind everyone that Pat Roddy will be in Riley Park on Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. I attended the Bradley Beach Shade Tree Commission meeting on May 7th. There was one application. 55 Main Street is removing one tree. Good news, they're going to replace it with 2 trees. Their trust is currently $15,200. The Board of Ed meeting is tonight, so I'll report on it next week, but the Bradley Beach Education Foundation has asked me to share that the scholarship committee presented their 2025 scholarships this evening at the Board of Ed meeting. This year, the recipient of the $500 award was Amelia Maffett. The foundation was able to award 2 additional scholarships of $250 each due to very generous donation. The recipient was Nora Bonnell and Dylan Vakadipane. That's a big name. The foundation thanks all who supported the scholarships through their generous donations. And the foundation wants to thank the scholarship committee, consisting of Barb Kenny, who's here this evening. Hello, Barb. Bruce Pilger and Roseanne Whitby for all their work. And just on a side note, the Bradley Beach Education Foundation is a 501c3. And I have to admit that it's very exciting and rewarding to see your donations being used on a local level. And I want to commend, this is a newer foundation and already they've created wonderful opportunities, scholarships and accomplishments. And it's quite admirable. So I would say, please join me if you want to donate to a very, very good cause. Thank you very much. And that's my report.
Thank you, Council President. I'm gonna name a good number of very important dates coming up, so if you all want to grab your pencils and paper, write it down, or just be ready, because I'm gonna try to rattle them off. First and foremost, business open forum, I mentioned it earlier, I'll mention it again, it's the first time we'll be doing this, at least in my administration. May 28th, 4 p.m. at the Firehouse. We will be advertising that, it will be in the newsletter. The library will be closed Memorial Day, May 26th, and the week following, May 27th through June 2nd. They're doing a carpet installation. Their book drops at both entrances will still be open for returns, and then the library reopens June 3rd. Very important that there was a strong buzz about this topic a month or so ago, a lot of residents asking about it. Fair share housing, the borough needs to submit our 10-year plan by the end of June. On May 29th, at the land use board meeting, the draft of that plan will be presented. So May 29th, land use meeting in this room on 6:30, May 29th. If you're interested in the 10-year plan for fair share housing, be there. And then a good number of dates for the Memorial Day weekend coming up. This is a powerful weekend for any beach community. Obviously, we're opening up summer, but very importantly, you know, we're recognizing fallen heroes, men and women who gave their lives in service of our country and for us. Starts with the parade, Saturday, May 24th, 10 a.m. There's been some confusion. I've understood that there might be some different times. The parade starts at 10 a.m. If you're marching in the parade, they're going to ask you to arrive at 9 a.m. That's May 24th, Saturday. There'll be that weekend, there'll be vendors on the beach on Saturday and Sunday. There'll be kid activities and everything. So that's the 24th and the 25th. Of course, we're opening for the first time a lot of our wheelchair access improvements, which our DPW, working closely with our police and some really amazingly responsive vendors, have got the beach in great shape for Labor Day. For Memorial Day. And the two handicap beaches are Evergreen and Cliff. We've got showers, we've got the 10-foot wide Moby mats, we've got the pickup and drop off, we've got site triangles that have been narrowed, so or expanded, I should say, so all good there. Very importantly, Memorial Day, Monday, May 26th at 11 a.m. If you can make it to Riley Park, we're hoping to have a really powerful ceremony. Our keynote speaker will be our own Anthony Murray with our police force. We're going to unveil a new Fallen Heroes Memorial Monument. It's actually a 3-ton boulder. 3 tons is a lot of weight. And that boulder should be dropped off Thursday morning if anyone's walking around town and wants to head over to Riley Park on Thursday morning. Anyway, that will have a bronze plaque on it identifying the war heroes that we've already identified from World War II and Vietnam, and adding our 20th fallen hero. For the first time, we'll have a part of our ceremony, we'll recognize John A. Quinlan, who died many years ago in Afghanistan, a helicopter pilot. His sister will be there. Mr. Quinlan's daughter will be there and will actually speak. So it should be a really powerful time for all of us. And then finally, after that ceremony at Riley Park, the Historical Society will host a gathering afterwards, and we can see a lot of the materials they've put together related to our veterans and fallen heroes. So a lot coming up in the week or so ahead. Be there if you can, it'll be great.
Mr. Mayor, is that gathering afterwards at the Piazzi Center?
At the Piazzi Center, yes. And I think it's gonna run for 1 hour. We should go roughly 11 to 12 for the ceremony, 12 to 1 roughly for the Piazzi Center after gathering. That concludes my report, and we'll move to public comments or questions. Please limit yourself to 5 minutes and speak to any issue you care, whether it's on the agenda or not.
I was gonna say, do you want to start with Paul, because he was trying to chime in before?
I will get to him, but let's start with Mr. Kemp.
Be quick.
Thanks.
Herb Kenny, 216 Ridley.
As usual, it's gonna be financial acumen. The last, person in your job a couple weeks ago, he told me you don't look in the back, in the rear mirror, so. Actually, I think you do. When you have an $8 million budget and you find $700,000, that's a problem. It's not newfound money, I don't know what it is. But, I don't know if municipal governments need to run off of Sarbanes-Oxley type, procedures. Do you have, who opens these accounts? Whose signature authority on these accounts? What's happened with these accounts? Right, most of the people in here, and then times 3, have been here for the last 5 years. And can't find money, right? We couldn't find the COVID money, we can't find this. When you can't find $700,000. It's amazing, and you need to look in the rearview mirror to see who had access to those accounts. What's been in, what's been out, who's allowed, whose names are on the accounts. Because I'm not gonna name names, but I bet no one on this here is probably on the accounts. And that is unbelievable. That could happen. And I've asked several times, why were there so many accounts? And I think Mr. Doherty said there was one reason, for it's easier for accounts. You shouldn't have that many accounts. You should not have more than 4 or 5 accounts in this town. And I would love to have someone explain to me why you would need more than that, but it's all it does is create problems like this. So I think you have some homework to do, and I think you should report back to the public on what this money was, where it came from, how long it's been there. And it's pretty scary because a lot of people in this town have been very, very concerned about the money in, money out, and it's about time. Thanks.
Mr. Kenny, just because you highlighted a couple of things, I want to add some clarity. Your comments are very well founded. But I also want to make sure everybody understands the situation. The money, as far as I know, and I've talked to the auditor about it, I've talked to our CFO about it, as far as we can tell, it was, there was a starting balance of around $60,000 entering 2024 in this account. And all the other accounts had been drawn down.
$2.50. I already went through the budget.
But there's there's 26 accounts. One had a lot of money in it, almost $700,000. Most of that money came in between May and September of 24. So, and the obvious assumption that we're going to find out for sure is that it came in through daily beach badges. It wouldn't be seasonal badges because that money comes in earlier in the year. But in those peak summer months, the obvious infusion, because nobody else is depositing any money, nobody else knew about these accounts. The obvious assumption is a Community Pass was just funneling to this account that they used to use historically, what turned out to be almost $700,000.
I understand, but.
No, well.
I know, but
No, so just.
Somebody knew how to wire it into that account.
Community Pass, a vendor of ours, it was using an old account. The prior account should have been closed out and they weren't.
I understand, but.
The one other thing or 2 other things, I want to make sure everyone understands. The money, as far as I can tell, we've only been discovering this in the past week. The borough knew about the money. It was in our AFS, but it was not identified as being in our old account, PNC. They had all the dollars, so it's not found money now. Is it the right amount of money? Why was it there? You're raising a lot of good questions. I just want to make sure people don't think that we found an extra 700.
No, I understand.
It was in our.
It's just.
Okay.
When you're looking at a budget of, 8 million as you put up, or 11 with everything in it. I mean, that's a big part of the budget. And to have any question, it's a little scary.
Well, yeah, we're finding things
I
out.
understand. I mean, and I'm sure,
Yep.
like I said, there's probably no one in this room whose name probably opened that account or is on the account today. I hope they are today, but, yeah.
The account's closed.
Yeah, yes, though.
When we discovered this, we had one signer. It wasn't the mayor, it wasn't the CFO, it was our clerk, Erica, who brought me.
I had no idea. Okay, let me just put that on the record. I had no clue.
I don't want anybody to get in trouble here. But I do think you should get back. And
We are doing everything we can
Okay.
to tighten up controls.
And we don't use rear view mirrors and we back up cameras.
That's right. Al, perhaps you'd like to repeat what I said when I found that out?
Can I, if I eliminate the curse words? It's not much else to say. Also, Mr. Evano was originally hired to look back that rearview mirror, or that rearview window, and he will be presenting his findings in June. Yes.
Brigitte McGuire, 610 Brindley Ave. Do you need one person do you need more than one person on the accounts at a bank?
Typically, we have a number of signatories, right?
Okay, so it wouldn't just be the clerk, it would normally be more than one, right?
Yes, and if I may, there were other people, but nobody that is in charge today, so she was the only one.
Okay, and then, being that this money was accounted for, but we didn't know where it was, would you just simply say that was because we calculated the revenues coming in and that was documented, but we weren't reconciling our accounts, and that's why we had no idea what bank it was in? Like, this is
I
insane to
mean,
me.
I wrestle with this because there's so much going on here, but I wrestle with it for fear of creating more confusion than enlightenment. We, the borough, financially knew we had the money. It's true, audit reports have told us accounts were not being reconciled, but statements were coming in, and somebody somewhere in the CFO world knew we had this money. I didn't know, our current administration did not appreciate that funds were split across banks. We all went through, the new administration went through getting our signatures updated on the accounts, Provident Bank in particular, that we use daily for payroll, for beach utility, for sewer utility. So we did all the updating we thought, including with Mr. Barrett here. No one had brought to my attention that we had this other account with 700,000. First question I asked is, did we just find gold in our hills? And no, we knew about it. It was in our financials. So no one's gonna see an increase of 700,000,
Right.
but we were not
I
aware
get
of.
that. I mean, obviously, I almost feel like it's PTSD with all of this, just coming back to this topic. With the account, I just have so many questions. With the accounts closed now, could we still tap into those accounts if we want back old
Oh, we're getting-
statements or
Oh,
anything
we're getting
like that?
4 years of statements. I've asked for that.
Okay.
They're closed, so there will be no more financial activity. There
Right,
have been,
current funds, but if you wanted, like, if I come to you as a resident and ask for more than 4 years, are you able to ask for that? Am I able to request that as a resident?
I don't know. No. No, you can't get access to our accounts unless you Oprah them, and we have them. But no one's trying to hide anything. We've just discovered
Of course,
this.
but I mean, I'm not a new person here over the last few years. This is freaking me out.
Yeah, please.
So these bank accounts, so it's from our former bank. So realistically, what happened was we banked with PNC Bank. And then a decision was made, not by us, by somebody else, to stop banking with them and move everything to Provident Bank.
Right. Which
Unfortunately,
Mr. Barrett had told me.
okay, so unfortunately, normally when you switch banks, which in the finance world, we hate doing that. Because it's a lot of moving parts and you only do it if, you're getting, it's so much of a financial gain. So what happened was they didn't close out those accounts. So it's not like it's a secret bank account. It's just that they weren't fully closed out. Little balances were left, probably, especially the one where you said it started the year with 60,000.
Right, that's more the concern. It's not about not trusting the new administration. It's
No, yeah,
really
no,
just
it's not.
going to. We know we've had all these bank accounts. We were told 26. This year we realized it's over 50.
Well, the reason it's over 50 is because it's double, because we opened all of the new accounts so that's why if you look at the financial statements, you're gonna see, because we have different accounts for various reasons, and unfortunately, 4 accounts isn't enough. There's certain ones we have to have separate accounts for.
it's more, makes more sense that we probably have 20 somebody accounts. Believe me, I've worked in a town where we had 100. So it's not uncommon. Usually the bank works with you and we don't really pay for a lot of the services are free and all of that. But it's better for accounting and some of it is state regulated. We have to have separate accounts. So those accounts should have been closed out and put into the other account. That's why it looks like it's so many accounts. So
Right,
they
but
left a
why
little bit of
would,
money in.
why would it show 64 when there's 700?
Right, so I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So if we are, so the account, some accounts, we have direct deposits coming in. The state gives us state aid, they do it in multiple payments, automatically deposited in there. There's a state like vendor portal where if we get grants, certain grants, it just automatically comes in. Community Pass, which is used for the beach utility, same thing, and that's what we're assuming what happens. I would be more concerned if it had less money, the fact that it's got all this extra money, so that's what we're assuming. When they did the AFS, they listed all the accounts, so it's not like they didn't know that they had them. It's just that for whatever reason, and I'm assuming, you know, you've had a turnover in financial people, right? And so nobody has.
We're trying to be patient, 'cause it's all
Right,
new
and
year.
I'm hoping to really instill your confidence and all of that, but what happens is, the last, Mr. Barrett, who was here for he didn't have time to, you know, by the time he's trying to find his feet, he left. So he did the AFS, all those accounts showed up, that should have been the trigger, like, this doesn't make sense.
Okay.
But he probably didn't have time to, he didn't have, I know he didn't, without knowing him, he didn't have time to come and revisit and say, we need to close these out. We happened to stumble over it by accident, and unfortunately, what I think you're gonna find throughout the rest of this year is little things that are gonna seem like a big deal if you, to me, this is a shame because we're being charged fees,
Yeah.
right? So that's the shame of everything. I don't think it's anything untoward, that's just my opinion. I think it was just a housekeeping issue that wasn't resolved.
Okay.
And so I
That would
think,
make total sense.
I think there's gonna be, I just wanna warn everybody as we go through the process and we try to really clean things up and, you know, get us where we need to be, that well-oiled machine. You're gonna hear some of these kerfuffles come up, but we're gonna fix them. That's
Okay.
what we're gonna do.
So
Thank you.
can I just ask Ms. Larison, so the monthly fees, what were they charged?
So they
They were
charge,
paid?
so that because we fell below certain balance. They charge like maintenance fees and all of this
And
analytical.
how are they
fees.
paid?
I got a broader explanation, but
Good.
you're right, there's an element of that, but. We had, when we were doing all our banking there, and the average cash balance might have been $10 million. They had a series of analytic programs designed to detect fraud and measure activity, and are you missing entries here? Or are you getting too many there? Are you putting them in the right accounts? And they have this fairly sophisticated analytic program. And they charge roughly $3,000 a month for these analytics, which I'm sure highlight fraud issues and so forth. But we had zero balances for at least a year, if not more, that they kept running the analytic programs. So the problem is you're running analytics, you know, and they're charging, you know, between $1,500 and $3,000 a month. We're trying to find out how far back this goes. We're trying to find out how much was charged. But what we know is there was a long period of time where we probably didn't need the analytics. So we're going to find out, we're going to do an audit of that. We're going to talk to the bank about the potential for refunds and so forth. But I think everyone who I've talked to at the bank is pretty agreed. The analytic programs really weren't serving any value when you don't have accounts. And ironically, the one account where we had money, that enabled the bank to charge fees when the rest of us didn't know they were charging fees. If they were sending us an invoice every month, somebody would have said, hey, what's this $3,000 invoice? But they were slowly drawing down the 600,000 or 700,000 we had, and nobody knew it unless they would have looked at the bank statement, which is why so these are the things, I know it's driving everyone a little crazy. We're very, very aware of the challenges. There's a lot of good that's happened and there's a lot of stuff we need to fix. So right now we're in the process of, with a new CFO and a relatively new council, we're in the process of getting our arms around everything, and our CFO in particular and our auditor are very laser focused on helping us get our bookkeeping in order.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the public? Mr. Cohen?
Thomas J. Cohen, 6 Fulford Avenue. I'm just puzzled about this now, hearing that it's possibly beach daily fee money. Would this 700,000 be in the surplus for the beach utility? Or would it be in the surplus for the general?
It right now is, okay, right now it was in the current fund at the bank. And when we moved it to the current fund at the new bank, our current bank, Providence. Then after, because we wanted to close down the accounts immediately and get control of the cash and put it in the right account. It turned out to very likely not be the right account. We probably should have moved it to the beach utility, which we can easily transfer. That's not a problem. But we didn't know at the time where the
We're
money.
used to that here, interfund transfer.
We didn't know where the money came from, but then when we looked at it'd be really unusual to have a lot of different feeds to one account.
Okay,
And even though it was feeding, the money was coming into the current fund. We looked at where the money came from. It was a lot of money, 700,000 for May, June, July, and August, or maybe September, 4 to 5 months, which screams, individual batch sales.
yeah.
It's only in the summer, it tailed off to almost nothing after September. It was nothing leading up to May. And seasonal sales come in early. So all we know right now is Logic. Logic looking at this says, I bet, this is quoting myself, I bet these were individual batch sales. We don't know that. So I did announce that to the room. I think that's very logical. I chatted with Jeanette.
Figure out where the money's supposed to
Yeah,
go.
that's more work for you, this last week.
Yeah. Well, and we've already alerted the business administrator to in turn alert Community Pass.
Okay,
Because they probably have an old account set up. I don't know why it would have been the current fund,
Yeah.
but they were transferring monies into this current fund at the old bank.
thank you for your financial logic, Mary. Appreciate it.
I mean, it can be revealed by seeing how the money was deposited.
Once we
Yeah,
get the
exactly.
statements, we'll be able to see.
Right.
Exactly what those transactions were. It could even be the state aid payments, and that maybe they realize later in the year, because they come periodically, so the important thing is that we got the accounts closed. The money's all in one bank where we're getting better interest rates, and we'll figure out where it needs to go. We'll be able to report back to the public when that's all sorted.
Thank you.
Ms. Kepler?
Beth Kemper, 504 Central here in Bradley. When you say that you're gonna be requesting, the bank statements, is it just for that? Because you said originally we thought we had 26 bank accounts as of March of 2024. We were told that there were 26 and they were all unreconciled. So that's where our mistrust comes in.
Sure.
Then 2022 audit showed multiple material misstatements, which is the fancy accounting word for fraud. Then we never had access to speak with any of our financial people such as yourself. And then one of our CFOs had his license taken away. Our mayor was very disrespectful to us and would never give us answers and would talk to us in circles and, I don't know if you might very well be familiar with the movie, All the Queen's Orchids. And this screams at that. I mean, 54 accounts and to find out you're double than what you were told. And then, so I don't, my mistrust has nothing to do with this administration. But our COVID money has yet to be accounted for in terms of telling us where that money was deposited and how it was allocated and where it went, and that's federal money. And then, as you know, with Hurricane Sandy, money was returned in 2023 at the request of the federal government. And after a certain amount of time, you're not allowed to request money back unless it's actually determined to be fraud, even if it's misallocated.
So, well, I can't answer to anything except for the Hurricane Superstorm Sandy, because what happened, just from working in a previous town and having a similar situation where FEMA came out and they were handing money out like, you know, Halloween candy. Then they come back and they do the, you know, after 10 years, they're gonna come back and now they decide, oh, you know, after you've had 5 or 6 different caseworkers on there, now they're gonna come back and tell you, oh, this wasn't done right, oh, we don't have this paperwork, and then they start clawing the money back,
Right.
and they do that all over the state.
Being fraud, though, unless there's an actual case there's.
I mean, I guess you could fight it, but I know that I've, in 2 other towns, we had to pay back money and it wasn't fraudulent, it was, they gave you the money up front.
Misallocation though is up to 5 years, they can do it, and then up to 10, it's yours, even if you did misallocate it.
Right.
And so all of these things
I got you.
cumulatively
Sure.
create a great sense of
I
mistrust.
totally understand.
And that's why we feel the way we do. And so that's why I'm asking, even though we're closing these other accounts and that one account, I know you indicated that you're going and asking for retroactive bank statements for, can we find out and look at the activity of the other accounts as well, the past activity, even if there is zero balance?
Yes.
We don't know, you know, I mean, I haven't minced my words. I really, since July of 2023, I came here and said, I feel like there was RICO crimes going on and that there's major fraud and there was a criminal syndicate at work in our borough. And based on that, all of these things on face value do add up to and give the appearance and lend to that being true.
We are, simple answer is, first of all, we've requested 26 different accounts, 4 years of statements.
That's what I wasn't sure if you were asking about that one or all of them.
All.
And that's what I wanted.
Now,
clarity on.
so we'll go back to before the money was removed from those accounts. No one at all among us, the administration, our CFO, no one's suggesting there's fraud of any kind. But there's a lot of money that's moved around that we would like to understand how it was moved. So we are beginning that process of reviewing that.
And one final thing, so the bank reconciliations that I guess probably weren't. From what, in order for them to have, for the financial statement to be completed for this year, for the audits to, those bank reconciliations, although we still need to see the bank recs because I don't know where those records are, and certainly we have to do the analysis to figure out what happened and when, but the bank reconciliations, to my knowledge, are completed through December of 2024 at this point. Because without that, there would have been no financial statement for 2020, you know, for the year end of 2024. I can tell you that me coming on, you know, a few weeks ago, they need to be done, you know, and then the rule of thumb is that you do them every
Even if
month.
you have to go backwards.
Oh, I'm gonna start in January and work my way forward, which is part of the problem is going to be also with, you know, the outstanding statements, so
But
that's where we are.
Appreciate.
25 of those reconciliations should be pretty quick.
Yeah, I think so, I think they'd be real quick.
I appreciate it, and thank you for your diligence and, you know, pointing these things out and your transparency to come and let us know like what's going on, because that puts us at ease and calms us, because when something may not have been going on, but the appearance of how we were treated is what makes you feel like, well, what's somebody hiding if they don't want to answer questions? So
I chose-
thank you for that.
I chose to share this particular information about PNC Bank, you know, as part of being transparent, but really just to educate our residents that a cleanup is underway, not in any way to suggest there's fraud. I mean, we're cleaning up, we're gonna understand what happened.
And in the future, once you get everything.
We're looking at everything, yeah, 4 years back.
It's too soon, I guess,
Yep.
and I appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Nishamkin, you've been waiting patiently. Thank you, sir.
Paul?
He's trying to.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes, yes.
Hi, Paul Nishamkin, 411 and a half Lorraine Avenue. Can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the borough for all the help I've received, the Historical Society has received over the last month. First of all, in donating the requested stained glass windows is much appreciated. As you probably know, if you've been following social media, the Historical Society was able to get out the two major large stained glass windows, one from the sanctuary and one from the Shepherd's Hall. And they're crated and will be going into storage until we can figure out how to display at least parts of those large stained glass windows. This was a very expensive proposition. We had a professional stained glass restoration company carefully remove the windows. The contract was for 2 days of their work. They actually put in 3 days for 2 days pay, but it amounted to about $7,000. And I thank everybody who has donated so far, hoping that we will get some more donations to offset that cost. But thank you very much for all of you who have donated. We've also received donations for removing the bell. The Historical Society proposes to get the demolition company to carefully somehow lower the bell. And we hope to have that preserved to the borough. And we have spoken to the principal of the elementary school, who is quite interested in having it put on the school property. And we will have it displayed there. And we think that's most appropriate, as the bell was contributed in 1900 by the children of the parish. And we want to point that out, that the children of Bradley Beach actually paid for that bell. I'd like to coordinate with the borough on the removal of any of the other objects. It's going to be a little bit confusing this first week because Long Branch, who have a great number of items to remove, will not be starting until the day after Memorial Day. So they're going to be working that week to remove their pews and tables and altars, and also their stained glass windows. They have not removed any of their stained glass windows yet. And also they're removing the organ. So there might be some confusion on what has not been claimed or picked up. And I'd like to try to straighten that out and coordinate with the borough so that people don't come in and pick that stuff up. The Historical Society also would like to see that the hymnals and Bibles, if possible, get to the people who originally had their families donate them. We looked through, and many of the hymnals and Bibles have dedication pages with the names of families who donated them in memory of their parents. And many of those families of parishioners are still in town. And we'd like to actually find those people and see that they get these as souvenirs of their participation in that parish. We plan on actually publicizing that in the CoStar and the Coaster, and that hopefully is in the works right now. So we'd like to sort of coordinate and make sure that people just don't come in and take those hymnals and Bibles out until we actually give a chance to the people who might really want them as a family memento. The other item that I'd like to thank the borough for is I'd like to specifically thank the DPW for helping us put up the historic signs on the boardwalk fence. They all went up very smoothly this year. There are some gaps, and we hope to fill those in. We hope to get people to actually donate signs. We will be posting details on how you can do that on our website in the very near future. But the signs are all up, and I hope that the town enjoys them and our visitors enjoy them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Any other questions or comments? Seeing no further hands, I will close public session. And let's see, we have no executive session. I will make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Jeanette. That was great.
You're welcome.
Yeah.